This time I'm gonna fucking eat my mic with the proximity effect.
You can't swear in the first, you can't drop F-bombs in the first, 10 seconds of a YouTube video. YouTube doesn't like that.
Well, I mean, YouTube may not like that, but it's not like we monetize these.
It's true, but it does still go out to the public, and it gets recommended to fewer people. Actually, I don't know if that's true for the live stuff, but I know it was true for a time with the videos where you had to
Yeah,
you
no,
had to be
you had to censor yourself for like the
yeah,
first 30
30
seconds,
seconds or
and then the
something.
first
Yeah.
5 minutes changed it as well.
Yeah.
YouTube's AI scrubbing. Anyway, hello everybody.
Hello, everyone. I am here
Okay.
with Canada's most controversial parliamentary member and one of the mole people. So we have a show for you today. Oh, yeah. Which is going to be all about some, I don't know if this is really controversy, but certainly controversy is part of what we do here. And so we can make it about controversy. Originally, we were going to make this a philosophy stream, and then unfortunately, Griffin was not into that, so we didn't do that.
No one is into that.
I don't know. I think Blaine would be into that. We could get deep into the epistemology.
I am into
stuff.
that, but
yeah.
Me being into that does not mean that it's a good idea.
It actually probably directly means that it is not a good idea.
Well,
okay, well, now you're just being mean.
They asked me for topics, and that's what I came up with. It's epistemology. But we're doing this instead. We're talking about what makes headphones fun, because there is this weird, pervasive idea in the community that, all the graph stuff is the opposite of fun. And if you're interested in measurements at all, you don't like fun. And so particularly with respect to certain headphones that have come out that have had monster bass of some capacity, I figured we should talk a little bit about, what actually does that entail? What is considered fun in the community? And what makes it fun? And is it appropriate? I think maybe not. But before we get to that, we should.
What?
I said, is it appropriate to consider certain?
I know.
Oh,
okay. I thought you were saying, is what's considered fun appropriate?
No, fuck.
No. I mean,
you and I are going to say the same things about all of this, but before we get into that, is audio appropriate? Exactly. That's a good question. Is music appropriate? Before we get into that, a couple bits of housekeeping. The well is running dry on topics, hence why we had to cover this one. And if we continue to not get additional topics in the forum, which is linked below on the post there, we will inevitably talk about philosophy. Yeah, we will inevitably get into epistemology, and
please help me.
Yeah,
please help me. Post in the forum. Give us ideas that are not about philosophy. I beg you.
To the deep dismay and disappointment of everybody involved, except me, maybe. The other thing is, I know that the Spotify stuff is not propagating as it should. It's not every episode is getting all of the episode. I need to look into that. Griffin, remind me next week to look into that. I'll do what I can. It might be because these go live without being, or they get turned into videos and get pulled too early or before they're full videos on the channel. And of course, the other thing that I want to mention is, actually, do we have noise floor bingo? I don't see it up. We can skip that. Okay, sure. As usual, guys, we will be putting timestamps below to skip to various different sections. The headline topic that you guys see here is not the only thing that we cover on these shows. These are live streams, and some people want quick answers to some of these questions, but that's not what these videos are for. They're meant to be longer deep dive discussions to sort of indulge us long-winded and overly verbose ultra nerdy audio dorks. Anything else? All of this is made possible by headphones.com. If you like what we do here and find it useful or entertaining, or you just want to hate buy things because you don't like something we've said, headphones.com is the best place to do that because we do carry things that all of us dislike. This is true. We also carry some good stuff too. So buy that. but yeah, that's what makes all this possible. Consider headphones.com for your next audio purchase. There's
Also
fun stuff
join
there.
our forum, Discord, etc.
There's fun
Participate in our
stuff like
community. You can
really
even
nice
talk to
cables.
us.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever I look down at my desk, I am excited and delighted that there's this blue Listen More cable on it and makes me want to listen to headphones. Not the headphones that are plugged into it right now. I was just listening to something that we'll talk about in our impressions. It's one of the worst things that I've heard in a very long time. We'll get to that. I think Griffin knows what it is. But yeah,
I'm actually not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, interesting. As usual, we will have cards below. So again, if you're watching this live after we've gone live, you can look towards the cards that you're interested in. Yeah, that will be the topic. Okay, let's get going. Topic at hand. Do you want to do the headline topic first?
Sure. So the headline topic, the one that we've put in the title of the video, is what makes headphones fun? And upon examining that question, it kind of made me realize, well, there's kind of two ways to interpret it. What makes headphones themselves fun, and what makes the hobby fun? And I think they are kind of two different things, because you can buy a
would say that they're
headphone and
almost
just enjoy it at
orthogonal.
home and have it. What'd you say?
I'd say they're almost completely unrelated. Yeah.
yeah, because you could buy a headphone, sit at home, enjoy yourself, and never really engage with the community at all. Or you could be like a lot of my friends who maybe started getting into headphones and bought a few headphones, and now like do not care about headphones at all and are just kind of here to hang out with your friends.
By the way,
but-
Griffin,
what's that?
this is the Aeon X closed.
Oh, nice, cool.
Just for folks who are wondering what I'm wearing, because it's one of the DCAs. Yeah. It's the Aeon X closed from Mastrop.
Yeah,
it's very good, very good headphone. Yeah,
still haven't tried that one.
I love it, but it might be too bright for you. But anyways, we can get into that a little bit later.
It's possible. But yeah, so why don't we get right into it? What makes headphones, the devices, fun for you guys?
Yeah. So, well, first, I think maybe to address that just the initial topic about like, should headphones be fun, right? I think that was the controversial.
That's an interesting.
The reason I'm phrasing it that way is because when we did that review of the Eris, a lot of the criticism of that review that we faced was that, well, these headphones are just meant to be fun, and if you don't like it, you don't like fun. And a lot of other people,
I mean, to be clear, they're right, because they're
that's
talking about
for totally different reasons.
Yeah.
No. For the other, so the other thing that I saw was, basically was the expectation that if you are looking at headphone measurements, what you are evaluating against is necessarily analytical and sterile and not fun. But what the irony there is that people don't realize that is what most people find fun or get their enjoyment out of, right? But to get now to what you were talking about, Griffin, I think that what most people consider, at least once they're in the hobby, what most people think of when they think of headphones being fun is elevated bass of some kind, right? I'd say like a broad category, elevated bass. And that's what makes something fun. But it is absolutely a false dichotomy to suggest that neutral or more balanced sound signatures aren't fun, or that if you don't like something that has unhinged levels of bass, oh well, you just don't like fun. That's just not a good argument, particularly because something can have elevated bass, be in that fun category, but actually have good bass at the same time. So now it seems like this is a term that gets used to apply kind of like a blanket statement of, I didn't like what you said about this thing that I like, therefore you don't like fun. Or fun equates to bad sound quality. In some respects.
So that's, we must define what fun means.
Yeah, exactly.
What is fun?
Been trying to figure that one out for a long time.
No, I feel this is already veering a little too close to philosophy and epistemology.
Yes.
I don't. Yeah,
Yes.
no, I don't. We're cutting it off there, Blaine. Sorry.
Headphones that are fun to me. Is that's where you were wanted to go with this?
Well, I mean, no, it's what about them
No, it's
is
what
fun to
makes
you.
them fun.
Oh, what makes them
Yeah,
fun?
yeah,
Yeah. So
I
that
mean,
yeah.
you've
so
actually chosen the much more philosophical definition here.
w-
Typical.
sure. Well,
Well, no, I
you
mean
have
Griffin.
Oh, me?
No,
Griffin has.
Griffin
Yeah.
did saying what makes headphones fun instead of what are fun
It's the meta
headphones.
question about fun.
Well, yeah, because
All right,
and this
Professor
is kind of
Griffin,
to Andrew's
the philosopher,
point, actually.
the reluctant
Um,
philosopher.
I think if you're gonna evaluate this question, you have to like admit that music itself is really fun,
Yes.
actually. Like
Yes.
if we would not be doing any of this if music wasn't bonkers cool and like damn near necessary for my enjoyment in this world. So
Yeah, I
that's the
mean,
baseline
Yeah.
that all of this starts from. And when it comes to like evaluating if a headphone is fun, like there's already a base level of enjoyment there that regardless of if I'm listening to a
Because
headphone,
music
even if
is
I
good.
don't like, if the music is something I like, then I
Mhm.
probably will still have a pretty decent time.
I have a
Um,
counterexample. It's the product that
oh, sure.
it's the product that I'm gonna give my impressions of. There is nothing fun
Oh,
about listening to music with that headphone. It makes
oh,
my
wow.
music sound horrible.
so it must
Damn.
be
I
a
mean,
very good headphone.
so yeah,
No, it's
there are
just
going to
fun.
be
It's just fun.
counterexamples. There are going to be counterexamples. Some
It's just
headphones are
fun.
truly horrid, but
Yeah.
for the most part, we're not really swimming in that soup. Like most audiophile headphones, while I don't I don't like most of them, I would not say that they're unlistenable or that they have no redeeming
Well,
qualities.
when we say most audiophile headphones, do we mean a random sampling of what I'd find on CanJam's floor or the average headphone owned by an audiophile? Because my
I
answer
would say
differs a lot
probably
on
the
both.
latter.
Okay, yeah.
The
If in the
former
case
the
of the latter,
former is
yeah.
very spiky, very dangerous.
Yeah, in the
Um,
former, if we just took a random thing off CanJam, I might not enjoy listening to music on that.
yeah.
Well, but
But
that's
I
the
guess
thing, right? Like it does come to a
so
point where you actively don't want to listen to to your music. Like there are headphones like the one I have in right now where I would choose to not listen to anything at all over listening to music that I like with that product.
sure. But
I
so
consider this the most damning of all possible judgments.
But
but
there are products that are like that. You know, you're
Yeah,
like, I
no, I
yeah,
don't.
mean,
there are a few
that's
true
basically what I
stinkers
said
out
about
there.
the fucking the Amanus.
That's what it was for you. Yeah, I
Oh
remember
yeah.
you saying that. Yeah, yeah.
I
I don't
wouldn't
know
say
that
it
I
was
would
that
go.
bad for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far. It's just fatiguing. Like I'd have to have
Yes.
really quiet. You know what I mean? And then, all right, like I could
Yeah.
enjoy my music.
But so further your point about like if you don't like this wacky signature, you don't like fun. For some people, the music is just enough. And like they just
Mm,
want to hear the music as it is. Obviously, that's a loaded statement, but it is just about kind of getting as direct a connection to the music as possible without any distractions or anything
yeah,
like that. And I would probably put you and I in that category, and probably Blaine too, as far
I
as
think there's a flip side
our
to this.
enjoyment. Well, sure. Yeah, what is it?
I think there. So part of that is to the second half of your topic here, which is for a lot of people in the hobby, what makes it fun is uniqueness, right? Or something
Hmm.
characterful about the product itself that is
Hmm.
doing things to the music that makes it sound specifically not normal, right? It's an
Hmm.
editorialization, and that's what they're finding fun and engaging. It's not the music itself, right? They're doing
Right.
the thing that I actually think people
Well, it's
should do
probably
when they're
both.
evaluating this. Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. I mean, the music
Yeah.
sounds good, and they like whatever's being something being imparted to their
Yeah.
music because
The
they're
extra character
it's
committed
like,
to
oh,
the
this is something new. I'm able to
experience.
listen to my music in a new way because I'm hearing it in a new way, right? There's that, which is totally fine. Um, the I forgot where it was. What was I just saying?
You said there
Come
was
on,
a
Griffin.
flip side to what I was saying about.
No, but that is the flip side. It's that
Okay.
in the hobby itself entails. Oh yeah, they're doing what people should be doing when they're evaluating these products is listening to the gear, not the music, because the gear is the fun bit. Um, because it's doing
To a lot of
different
people,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Like chasing
Mhm.
editorialization, I think it can in and of itself be a fun pursuit. It's one that is ultimately, in my mind, not as rewarding or enriching of the experience as finding something that is more transparent and um overall less colored, right? But I get the appeal. I get the chase, right? Where it's
Yeah,
like,
as
hey,
far as
this
what makes headphones, the devices,
yeah,
fun to a lot of people, the answer to that is them being different.
yeah. And this is why we talked about this a little bit in the last live stream where we were saying how like for some people, you know, those tasteful colorations, that redounds to technicalities for them. And um like I think Cameron's example is with the AB 1266. He doesn't think it's neutral in any way, but he likes it because of its weirdness. And that to me is kind of what signals fun to a lot of people. It's like indulging in the weirdness, right? And then when somebody like that, an asshole like me comes along and poo-poos the products that they're indulging for their weirdness, or that they're indulging in for their weirdness, right? For being weird, by saying like this is not a great product because it's super weird in whatever ways, that is antithetical to fun to them, right? So that's really maybe I'm steel manning this, right? But like that's how I see that propped up. Um, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but the way I tackle this, in my mind at least, because I'm not really doing anything to tackle. This is what I'm doing to tackle it. The way I
Mhm.
do deal with it is basically to recognize that like the problem there is you don't have any real limits on that classification, on the classification of fun. It could be anything from a ton of bass to truly wild and bizarre frequency response, and no sense of goodness or badness, no judgment of that really applies once you're in that realm, because you have nothing to anchor it to, um, other than this is just weirdness all the way down.
Yeah. Again, bringing it back to like there being a baseline enjoyment that comes from music. I think when it comes to the devices themselves, they really just need to make sound, and the person themselves needs to like be interested in either a novel presentation or just the music itself to enjoy listening to music on headphones. Um, I think there are a lot of things about headphones specifically as devices that are fun. Um, I like very much so that they kind of put you in your own little world with the music that basically surrounds you from, um, as some scholars would say, equal energy from all directions.
some
Um,
scholars some scholars
but
It puts you in the sound helmet.
well, no, yeah, that's pretty sure that's a me quote
It
actually.
is, yeah.
Uh, but that I love that. I love the sound helmet. I love even if it's an open back headphone and I'm not being effectively isolated from everything around me. I love the feeling of it just kind of enveloping me. And like speakers are cool and have a ton of benefits. And IEMs are cool and have a ton of benefits. But over ear headphones have always been the one that I feel like
Yeah,
directly connected me with music with the least downsides and the most upsides.
yeah, sound helmets are cool.
Yeah, what were you laughing about?
Just you saying I love sound helmets.
I do. I
Yeah.
love sound helmets. Soundhelmets.com.
It's what it should be.
Yeah.
I have another aspect to
I
fun.
Oh, go ahead, Blaine.
Unless Blaine, do you want to?
Well, one of the things that I feel is kind of strange here is that we're treating fun like it's a quantity that is separate from the intersection of headphone and music. Like, there's a lot of headphones that I think are fun for a song. There are very few
Mm,
headphones that I think are fun for all songs. And the headphones that I think are fun for all songs tend to be headphones that sound pretty normal,
yeah, that's a good point.
right? Like, from my point of view, there's the factor that's sort of been, and I mean, if you talk to Steven about to Zeus about his headphone, he doesn't like say, "Oh, just listen to whatever." He's like, listen to this movie soundtrack, you know.
Yes.
There's something which, and we often skate over that when we talk about so-called fun stuff, that it's really about an interaction between the atypicalities of how a headphone sounds and a particular piece of music, a particular piece of content that makes people say, wow, that's an interesting effect. And I actually like, I actually think I'm more into this than you two are, probably. Like, there are a number of headphones that I
Depends.
have enjoyed that have weird responses. Um,
Yes.
Generally, like Japanese headphones with slightly weird mids. I often find something where I'm like, you know what? I enjoy how mandolin sounds on this particular song with the A900X, or I enjoy how, how the voices sound on this particular song with the CD900 ST or whatever. So I think that that's sort of the thing that I feel like is slightly absent here, is that the AB1266 is not going to be fun on everything. Like, Cameron is not surely going to say, "Oh, it sounds weird and I like it with everything." And that's sort of the
Mm.
problem with fun stuff, is that it's almost always, whether spoken or not, this is enjoyable to me with this sort of content, with this sort of instrument, with this sort of sound. Which is also kind of the problem with fun stuff, is that it's usually specific to a circumstance.
I have
Yeah.
another element to this, which is I
Yep.
think fun, to me at least, one of the things that really is also genuinely fun, and I know that that sounds weird for me to say, but it's the material aspect, the mechanical and industrial aspect of headphones. There's something fun about how they
Oh, that's
function,
because
how
you're
they work.
lost in the sauce.
Yeah, sure. But I'm lost in fun apparently. Knob feel, right? But it's all
I
the
don't.
that
I don't. I don't think that's
I'll give you an
exclusively a
example.
cork sniffer thing, though.
No, and I'll give you an example. A while ago, we did a live stream. We asked about like what our favorite, like if we could put together a set. Someone asked this of us, and it was we were to put together like a favorite setup or something like that with like a DAC, an amp, and a headphone. And Griffin, you chose the goddamn Fireflies because you
'Cause
enjoy
it's cute.
something. Yeah, and that is
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, right? There's an element
Yeah.
of like what are the things that I would want to have on my desk? What are the things that I would want to surround myself with?
Yeah.
And you know when you pick something up and you're able to go, this is good design, that feels good.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's rare in
Rare. Yeah.
headphones, but you get what I mean, right? When you encounter it, you go, that's isn't that nice, right? And Blaine did the same thing with I have it on video. When the HD1 was rising out of its thing, hear Blaine saying, wow, that's nice, that's nice. And it's like, but
Yeah.
that's what it is, right? Like there's that element to it where it's you're able to appreciate it for totally non-acoustic reasons.
Yeah. And
I
I
feel
actually
like
think
at
that's
this
true
point,
of a lot of people,
fun
but
is
it's
being
not the same.
stretched slightly.
But it's always been stretched.
No, I don't. I
That's the
don't think.
point.
I don't think it's that stretched. Like, what about, like, if you find the industrial design or the convenience or the kind of form factor or look of a headphone like fun, that's, I think a lot of people would say that like AirPods Pro 2 are a fun device to
Yeah.
like how many people do you see like on the subway just like doing this with their AirPods case or playing with the little click of the close mechanism? Like
Zero,
they're like,
actually, but
Well,
really? I see people
yes.
when I was living in New York, I saw people doing it all the time.
Fucking New
But yeah,
Yorkers.
that's when
Blaine,
I touched grass.
Blaine
But
just needs to see what it's like in the city. Because I've seen it
I,
too.
yeah. But I guess that's just to say that I feel like the handling aspect of headphones, the feel of it all and the look of it all is definitely something that makes it fun for me, and something that I wish was more fun because there were products I liked more for that out there. But there aren't really that many that, give me that feeling. The HD800 is definitely one of them, but don't think I own any other. Actually, the Sony one that you sent me, Andrew, the MV1,
Oh yeah.
gives me that
Yeah.
satisfied
There's
feeling
something
when I hold
special.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
all endorphins fun, though?
Jesus Christ.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I feel like because then, I mean, are my revels fun? I mean, like, I guess they're fun.
If they're not,
Are
why'd you buy them?
Okay, but again, I feel like we're stretching the definition of fun here, because if we use the definition of fun that's just anything that elicits a positive response, then all good headphones are fun. And our ability to talk about what distincts so-called fun headphones from actually good headphones becomes limited.
I feel like we can expand and narrow the definition as we choose based on whatever we're
No,
talking
but
about. Like
but
we
but
don't
there is a
need to
sense.
have it be one thing.
Well, okay, hold on though, because there is a sense in which this term A does damage control for just bad headphones, right? That on the one
To an
hand,
extent, but
and
the
so that
first
if it's
thing you said kind of speaks to that, where it's
yeah,
like fun is base. Fun is a weird signature that someone enjoys for X reason. And what Blaine said also speaks to that, I think, where it's program material dependent.
I mean, fun is an experience, but I'm slightly ornery with the concept that we just play word games until we've collapsed fun into generic, like, good sentiment, because then we can just say, oh, well, fun is neutral. And at that point, all we've succeeded in doing is poking the word around until we're not talking to the people who are talking to us in the first place. You know?
yeah, yeah. So there is
Okay.
also that was the second bit I was going to say, which is that fun seems to take on a similar role as like Pratt, where it could describe anything and inherently then describes nothing. Um, but I do think that people mean like I do think that like if you just asked a random audiophile like what distinguishes like a good headphone from a fun headphone, right, or something along those lines, right? They'd say, well, the fun one is just like extra bassy or something like that, right? Like I think that there is a sense of that which does narrow the scope at least a little bit. Maybe this is because these are the people I'm talking to, but that's what I come across. Um,
My
you look,
perception is that the people who say that this headphone isn't meant to be, it's always couched as sort of a, it's not X, it's Y. It's not meant to be reference. It's fun. It's not meant to be
that's right. That's
neutral.
right.
It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fun is defined against good generally. Fun is
People's
generally defined
perceptions.
against good.
Sure, but
As
people's
people
perceptions
typically
of
use it, yeah.
right as that relates to people's perceptions of neutral, right? Like they have a certain idea in their minds of what neutral is, but the reality is that like their their idea in their mind of what neutral is probably isn't actually what neutral and balanced would actually sound like to them.
I
Right,
mean,
like what they would actually
probably.
prefer.
I do think that it's pretty much the audio industry term for like a B movie, though.
Yeah,
Like,
or like it's like
Interesting
the fast,
analogy,
yeah,
actually. I feel like
like
that
the
holds
Fast and the
up.
Furious, you know? It's like the Ubisoft open world game of where it's just generic, but it's fun. Um,
hmm.
Yeah, fun is Michael Bay movies.
that's that, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, hey, I enjoy a good
The
what
cuts make me nauseous
I'm
sometimes.
just trying to think of like a Michael Bay movie and I can't right now.
I mean, the only
Uh,
ones I can
Skibidi
think of are
Toilet.
Transformers, because I'm a boomer.
oh,
Wait, did
no,
Michael
I
Bay
was
do Skibbity Toilet?
so this is not a Michael Bay movie, but I am a fan of the Fast and the Furious
Shakespeare.
franchise. They're all bad except for the first
How
one,
dare
which
you?
is genuinely great. The first one is good. It's Bromeo and Juliet. It's you know,
That's
and if you make that, you know, uh comparison, right? If you it is quite Shakespearean. You guys heard it here first. The Fast and the Furious is Shakespearean. But anyways, I
Well,
quite
when you
like that
say
franchise.
Shakespearean, is it just going to be another West Side Story thing?
Wait, have you not seen the first one?
No.
Oh, it's great.
it's pretty good, actually.
It's yeah. I mean,
And
they all went downhill after
I
that, but
actually like other ones in the Fast and Furious
yeah, yeah.
series
So, some of the
too.
other ones are good
But
too, but some of them are really bad.
yeah, I mean they're not like they're not like the height of cinema or anything, but they are
Yeah,
fun. They are fun. That is for sure.
yeah, exactly. Um, I don't know. I would still say that there's a distinction between the Fast and the Furious franchise and say something like the Guardians of the Galaxy, where you can have something like that, which is truly fun, but also can be recognized for other merits as well. Like I would say,
Guardians of the Galaxy is like the Harmon target.
Um, I think you're really fluffing out Guardians of the Galaxy up there, honestly.
No, or like
It's
the
an
second one in
okay
particular
film.
is quite good. The
so
second one
here's the
No,
has
the
thing.
great.
second one is
Some of
worse
those
than the
Marvel
first one.
movies,
No, the second one has
some of those
great
Marvel
thematic
movies are very well
things.
put together films. Like even in
Yeah,
terms of like if
yeah,
you're looking at it
exactly.
academically, they are
They are
well
good.
put together films.
Yeah,
And there's a reason they are so widely talked about
yeah,
and so widely seen.
yeah.
But they are also the kind of like monk brain, bright flashing lights and
Exactly. But
explosions
even like
fun.
to go a different route, right? The Batman movie, the whatever the recent one with Arpad is. That movie
Mm,
can be like it has all those sort of typical superhero tropes, and it's fun to watch if you're a fan of like superhero stuff. But
sure.
if you're if you're not a fan, if you just like good movies,
Right.
it's got that too, right? It has that really unique style to it. Um, and yeah, so like it can be appreciated. So what I'm saying is that like it's not like anything is equal, or not like all things are equally, like if it's fun, it's okay, it's good, right? Like, but you can also have like things that are genuinely good and fun,
Yeah, you can be good
and that's
and
better.
fun. Yeah, like
Yeah,
the Harmon target. You can have an ample base shelf, but also
you're
have
not
proper
gonna
mids.
you're not doing yourself any favors with the crowd who
I
doesn't
mean,
like the.
I'm just saying things can be fun and good,
Uh,
and I don't think that's necessarily controversial because there are
yeah.
things that everyone kind of agrees is good, uh, but a lot of people might not agree they're fun.
Mhm.
So
Well, so yeah,
maybe
I was
they are
gonna say,
two different
is there
judgments.
anything? I mean, is there even that much that people agree are fun? Like, when I think about fun, I think about controversial headphone, basically. Like,
You
I've
know,
seen
that's
people
not a
call the
bad point now that I think
GT990
about it.
fun, and to some degree, I would call the GT990 fun. It's a very hyped sound, but you guys would not find it fun.
I find it fun in that it generates a lot of interesting controversy and discussion.
Yes, but to listen to.
Oh no, it's intolerable. But I am doing that video. It has not. It still hasn't. I need to check again. I have it sitting on blocks. Um,
What?
I'm trying to do the padware compression thing.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
I think it needs to
Oh,
actually sit on a human. That might be
Just
the
no,
issue.
just wear it when you work out so that your sweat really gets
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there.
yeah. Exactly. Um,
Also, it will give you the testosterone to pump, you know?
yeah.
Wait, someone in chat says Andrew reads Teen Vogue. Do you read Teen Vogue?
I don't know what that is.
Well, I assume it's Vogue, but for teens.
No, I'm saying I don't know I don't know what the like.
what the joke there is.
Yeah, I don't understand this reference at all.
Please explain, Mark.
Yeah, or Ryan.
Or Sally.
What is the equivalent headphone to Morbius? That's a good question,
Oh,
actually.
Grado.
No, because Grado is always the same. Grado would be something that keeps happening and it always sucks. Which I guess would be the
Oh.
DC and like the DC cinematic universe would be
What about
Grado.
stacks?
No, because the thing about
Morbius isn't
Morbius is
old
that it
enough.
was like, yeah, Morbius was like a novel thing that came out and was made fun of for being particularly silly and bad. I guess
I
is the
watched like a
Grellphone
part of it.
Morbius?
Oh, maybe
No, because I don't think people had any expectations for
Austrian
Morbius.
Audio X High 55 or whatever the.
That is probably actually the answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
probably.
think that checks all the boxes.
yeah. Guys,
Uh,
I haven't heard of most things. Okay, like let's be real. I live in my little
Andrew doesn't
bubble.
even know what a Super Saiyan is.
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to this. I'm not part of modern internet culture. I apparently.
Well, Super Saiyan comes from the original Dragon Ball series, I think.
Okay. So I
Dragon
don't
Ball
follow
Z.
that. I don't know that.
I mean, that did air when you were about 12. So
Yeah,
you would have
no,
been in
I'm
the target demographic.
but it didn't
You
hit
were in prime
me. It
time.
did not hit my town. Um
It's a
yeah.
shame. Anything else fun about headphones themselves? Like, because I feel like when it comes to my experiences with headphones these days, it's like I've already kind of whittled down the things I find fun about a headphone and have chosen those headphones for my personal collection. And then most times I review a headphone and it is not a very fun headphone.
If the experience of listening to music is made worse because of a headphone, like because of a particular coloration, I find that distinctly not fun. I find that less fun than if I listen to a headphone that makes it sound better. And better is often well correlated with balance,
Better
proportional
and
bass,
to
treble,
Blaine's
balanced
point,
mid.
better and to Blaine's point, consistently better. So not just better with one song, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
sound
exactly.
good with all of the varied music you're listening to.
That's to me though, right? Like I
Yeah,
get,
yeah.
if people are like doing the this Cameron said he specifically likes the AB 1266 with electronic music, right? Like he has a genre pairing there, and that's his jam, because it does fun things to that genre for him. Anyway, what are
Yeah,
your
I mean,
guys'? Go ahead.
I do just sort of want to harp on, even like at a genre level, it's not enough, because there are headphones that I've literally enjoyed for one song, and I'll be like, oh wow, that was a fun experience. This weird headphones, weird sound in this song were great. I'm thinking of the ATH AD 700 here, which is a headphone that is profoundly flawed. Like it has no bass, and the treble is a roller coaster that even the Utopia envies. Um, but with the one particular song, which is a small folk band's cover of a song by Donovan of all things, it sounds fucking sick to me. And then something else comes on, and I'm like, wow, this is really not a great experience.
Yeah,
So
I've heard songs with that headphone where I was like, "Whoa!" But it's a very rare occasion.
I mean,
chat
that's
says you need to
HD
name more fun headphones. I mean, the
HD 800S
problem
is kind of like
is
that.
there's headphones that I don't think other people find fun that I find fun.
Well, what are they?
Um. Okay, so I mean, I've done the bit about the ATs. Like pretty much every Audio Technica has at least one song where I'm like, well, maybe except the M50X, but pretty much every one of the weird ATs has at least one song where I'm like, wow, that's fun. Um, I actually, here's things people consider fun that I've never been able to enjoy. Some people keep shilling me on the various tactile transducer headphones, and I have never found that entertaining. Like even with the super bassy stuff,
Mhm.
people are like, "Oh, it's fun." Like it's never been super enjoyable to me.
Mm.
Um, I like. I've actually enjoyed stacks like old lambdas for electronic stuff. I like even though which is the converse of what people expect, but I like the sort of the spacey sound of it,
Yeah,
you know?
no. Yeah, the whole ethereal presentation does kind of lend itself to music that is already in an artificial space and kind of puts you in that mental zone. Yeah, I could see why
Yeah.
you would like that.
Empire ears.
That's a great example. I mean, so
Yeah.
that's definitely one where it's like, to me, it's like only fun. Like I would never listen to that for music that I didn't want to sound like a fireworks show.
Yeah. That's
And
the
I feel like
point. Is
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah,
want the fireworks show.
and like I do genuinely enjoy that. I had the Legend Evo at home for a little bit, and I did find myself picking it up a few times. Whereas with most things, I'll just like listen to them for the review and then put it away and never touch it again.
And not just
Um,
put it into the bin. You actually wanted to listen to
well, I
it.
don't own most of the stuff, so
Ah, right. Okay.
but for that one, I did end up using it a few times because it was fun in a way that was like a little bit stupid. And it had that like bone conduction driver that made the like weird artifact in the lower mid range and like made the shell rattle and spring anytime it was moved.
Hmm.
But there was just
Jesus
something, yeah,
Christ.
fun and vivid and a, a little bit gross about that presentation. It made me feel like I had to take a shower after I listened to it, but it was a really good time. And sometimes that's just what fun is.
That's right. And we're allergic to it, apparently.
So, in terms of answering the title question, what is it that makes headphones fun? And is the answer being bad but circumstantially enjoyable? Is fun
I
the
think
junk food
so.
of headphones?
I think so.
That's a very headphones.com content team way to
the
phrase it.
fun is the junk food of headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it nurtures the degeneracy.
Yeah. Fun is Coke and Pop Rocks.
You could have just stopped at the first one.
and it would be true. Hey, if okay, never mind. I'm not gonna.
Okay, so wait. If you three all had to choose a headphone that is fun and good,
can I say the
what would it
Blaris?
be? Oh, interesting. Okay, because it still has a lot
That's
of bass,
what
right?
I bet. Yeah, I gave it more bass, but then I fixed the rest of the stuff. Graphs are fun. That's right. Graphs are fun.
Do I have to find it fun, or do I think that someone else will find it fun?
You have to find it good, but if you think someone else will find it fun, I guess that's fine. I would
mean,
prefer
it's
it
so
be something
restrictive.
I mean, I would prefer you enjoyed it both.
Okay. I'll give you an
good
example.
and it being fun.
My answer is going to be the Skedra phone, the Draupnir, where it's like that's one
I
where
did not like the Sked phone.
I would never choose it.
Class 3
but
listener
it is
moment.
Yeah, exactly. But I would never choose it. But like for the bass heads, that is the headphone because it's absurd. And it is not like it's bass without it being. First of all, it's better quality bass because the shelf is lower down, right? So it doesn't bleed. It doesn't intrude over everything else. And also, the rest of the response is reasonably balanced. Like I mean, I'm not gonna say it's amazing, but it's good. And that's one that I would have fairly easy time, labeling fun, but also not to the narrower definition of fun, basically, right? Where it's like it has this unhinged level of bass, but not unpalatable for mids and treble.
Okay. Blaine, what was the answer to like your what was your choice?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I mean, the answer is probably. I mean, it really depends on whether you're trading off good or you're trading off fun. In terms of the stuff that I think has been generally agreed to be fun that I found listenable, it's probably going to be something made with one of the fucking stupid TH900 drivers.
Oh, it's going to say like a TR-X00 or whatever. Oh, you mean like a mod?
Yeah, it could be that. It could be just the actual straight up THX100. Like those are things that the original Denon was just straight up good. Rest in
D2000?
peace. Yeah.
Yeah.
The D2000 was straight up good. Rest in peace. But the subsequent ones were less good, but more fun. And, I can vibe with that. Outside of that, I mean, probably one of the weird W-shaped Audio-Technica closed headphones, the A900X, the fucking... I've heard one of the Woodies and it wasn't bad. Some of them are really horrible. But they're all super, both in situ variable and also
the Woodies.
Just their FR is really fucking weird. But some of them are like, oh, I'm really having a novel experience with this thing, and I'm enjoying it right now. So
are they actually
the
called Woodies?
That's in the before times. It was fairly common to call those things that. Yes,
I know Danda referenced them as that, and I thought that was hilarious.
Well, no, that's just because we're old hands in the hobby. It was very common to refer to them that way circa like 12.
You're talking about like the Awas and the Aukt and all that stuff.
Well, no, I'm talking about like the W2002 and stuff, like stuff that's old. I haven't heard or is that right? Yeah, like the old
before the Awas and the Aukt.
Yeah, I haven't heard either of those.
Yeah, they're the worst things of all time. It's like
But maybe they're just fun, Andrew.
But that's what I'm saying. Maybe they're just fun. But in the wise words of one Dongless, absolute smoldering dumpster fire.
Yeah. I will say, on the note of fun, I really did not find, like, I don't get the fun thing with the Aris or with the Skedphone.
I get it. I
I
get it
mean,
with the
I
headphone.
think the common denominator there is you don't enjoy massive amounts of bass, which is
Yeah,
But
so
I
his
very
literally
enjoyable.
just said, like, the TH900 shit is
I would
tolerable.
not say those are massive amounts of bass, though. They are
no,
bassy, but they are also very bright.
yeah, like by that
Yeah.
logic, you could say like the clear is fun. You know, it's like
I would
bassier
It's
than
okay.
some.
So that was
Right?
actually going to be my
Well, okay, the
answer for like
difference,
fun
there's an
and
order
good.
of magnitude difference. It was the clear.
Yeah, like any of those Focal open backs, like the LX
Yeah.
Clear Utopia, I feel like they have, a reasonable spectral tilt with not too many crazy colorations. But when I listen to them, the drums do be popping,
Yeah.
which is definitely something that is fun for
Okay.
me.
How about this? How about this? Did you ever listen to the Harmonic Dyne Zeus?
No.
I think actually Blaine has ours.
Well,
Oh,
no,
He's
the
been
trash can had yours, and then I took it out of the trash can.
That's right.
was it broken?
No,
It
they
was
just threw away a bunch of headphones when they
it was
fucking.
no, that one had a massive channel imbalance. That's why it was not
Oh,
and it
Got it.
wasn't just the pads. I was
Got
sad
it. I
about
would
it.
like to hear that one.
Yeah, because it would fit in that category for me of fun, not normal, quite
Fun
V-shaped.
and not bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Like
like, so
there's
if I were gonna say fun, like I think most people are going to have fun with it, but like I don't personally enjoy it. Blaine actually kind of took my answer. I would have said Phil phone. Like
oh okay,
I don't really like that headphone, but it is still one of the most fun experiences I've had with headphones
right.
because it's a very very open headphone with a lot of bass, a coloration in the mids that brings texture forward and like a kind of spaciousness to the presentation such that like it does a lot of like the technical stuff that people want out of a fun headphone. It is tuned a little bit weird, but I feel like for people who are kind of fun heads, I'm not sure there's another headphone that I feel like accomplishes and balances those colorations as well.
Yeah. I do. Somebody mentioned in chat, the Caldera closed is one that I would put on that list.
Oof,
Having heard it, right? To me,
oof.
colored, but I found it fun.
Got it.
Yeah. Like it's the quite. I don't know, the one I heard at least was quite warm.
Yeah, it was
But
very like dark to
yeah,
me. Like
but
there was like a big hole in the lower or
yeah,
mid treble on my
yeah, like
head.
yeah. That's. I mean, it always depends on the pads, right? But like
Yeah.
the one I heard in Munich, I found to kind of fit that definition, right? Just like bass shelf extending too high in frequency, right? Or like that kind of thing where it's not like a distinct sub bass thing, but it has that sort of enveloping quality. I mean, there's a sense in which like you could even say headphones like the Empyrean 2 are in that category.
Yeah, fun for other people. Yeah.
Hey,
I
I love.
enjoyed the Empyrean 2. If the
I thought it was
Empyrean
pretty
2
good.
counts
Yeah,
as
That
fun, I
doesn't
like it.
surprise me.
yeah. I mean, it has
The
trebles, so Griffin not gonna like it.
Well, it also has very like at least to my ear, it had pretty similar treble to the HD800S. That's
Yes,
why I
Yes.
said that.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
which is why Blaine likes it.
Yep. Well,
Um,
yes. Correct.
yeah. Anyway, anything else
Want to
on
move
just
on
the
to
topic
the
of
second
fun?
Are we
part?
going to now what makes headphones the hobby fun?
Yes.
Is it? No,
So
I
that's a
actually
good
think.
question.
Yeah, no, I actually think it is. I mean, if it weren't, we wouldn't
Of
be
course
doing
it
this.
is. Correct.
We get paid.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you can do all kinds of things where you get paid. I was pulled into this against my will. No, I there are good times to be had along the way, right? Like that, like despite all the cynicism and the, basically like taking a look at the industry and going like, okay, this is like, as you said, Blaine, in the last stream, like this is not a serious industry. And like, a lot of the issues that we do see with it, there are good times to be had along the way. And in my mind, the good times do make it worth it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this, you know?
I mean,
Uh,
it being unserious is kind of what makes it fun. Like being like all right, so and this take may alienate the quote gamer audience, but for industries that are profoundly serious, like microprocessors or whatever, there's very little actual fun to be had. And people will cope and see and be like, "Oh no, but if I buy this weird German man's delitting thing, I can overclock by X more,
it's true.
X more
Yeah.
percent." Um, but this is not actually fun. This is just coping. Like, this is something where people are being like, "I having this device is part of my identity, so I'm trying to find something to do with it."
But
Like,
that is, like that. I would actually say that the copium sides of it are the worst parts about it.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, that
Um,
is a serious industry, and
yeah,
because it is serious, all there really is to say is, how does this benchmark? We have good objective measures, we have
yeah,
good measurements of how it
but
works,
we see that in
and
this industry
then
too. We see the cope trends. You
well,
know,
yeah, but the thing is, the industry is
But there's
bad
other stuff
enough that
too.
you don't have to rely on coping to find something interesting to do.
right?
Like, in
Oh, I see what you're
PCs,
saying. It's not
people
the only
are
thing.
filling them with
Yeah,
weird color liquid and stuff and building them into weird shapes because PCs are essentially something you can solve with a calculator, and that makes them a fundamentally not very fun industry. And I know, again, this is going to be a controversial take, but, like, it is sort of the take I have on that. Whereas headphones and speakers to a lesser extent, it's hard enough to actually find what you like that there is actually challenge to getting a good result. And humans find reward in challenge, which is why they keep creating artificial challenges in like the PC space, in probably in phones. God knows what people are doing in the phone fandom. I don't even want to know. Um, but
Do
you
you
see
think
what
we
I mean,
create
yes?
artificial challenges in this space as well?
Oh God, yeah. No, I mean the thing is, scroll back like 20 years. That's all this industry was because there were like no new products ever. So all it was people who had realized that the HD 600 was basically the best headphone. Um, well, let's think. I guess there was also stacks and the HE60 and stuff, but I mean, like, it pretty much people got one of the mid-fi trio headphones and then started doing weird shit with it, like putting Moon Audio fucking headphone cables on it, or buying $1,000 fucking tube amplifiers for their $300 headphones. So no, like, circa then, that was all this hobby was as well. It was exactly the same shit as PC right now, where it's just like, I have the objectively correct choice, time to do weird things to it because I'm bored.
time to make it objectively incorrect.
Well, I mean,
But
someone in the chat is
subjectively,
saying, talking about Roman, which is Bauer, the German guy, is talking about saying, how much performance can I get if I throw tons of liquid nitrogen on it? Yes, that is, I have the right thing, and now I'm going to do weird things to it because I'm bored.
Mhm. Right.
Got it. I actually there were a few parts of what you said that I feel like we could branch off from. One of them is that like that people like giving themselves challenges. I feel like a lot of people in this space. So for one, I feel like for a lot of people the fun is buying stuff, and that is like totally cool and valid, and if I had the means that would probably be fun too for me. But I feel like in a way that only is fun when you are kind of imposing limitations or buying with one hand behind your back. Like I find a
Mhm.
lot of the people who tend to do that or move through the hobby like that are either the type that are very mistrustful of measurements or ignore them almost entirely, or the kind that, believe in some of the more fringe theories like
Wait,
burn-in,
are
which
you
we'll talk
saying you
about.
think they're doing that intentionally? Like they're like deliberately putting
Well,
their
if
head in
in
the
some
sand?
cases I know they are. In some cases I
Interesting.
like know for a fact they're like, no, because if I learn too
Ah,
much, it'll be less fun. Because like at this
interesting.
point, like, and might just be
I've
true of
talked to a
my
lot of tube rollers who are of that opinion, yes.
yeah, like it might just be the spaces I'm in are
This is the Schrodinger's headphone hobby.
relatively diverse for the Discord space, where it's basically just a monoculture, but there's a very slight difference between
I mean,
people.
I usually
Um,
encounter people who just say that you're wrong. That's,
well,
like, it's not
so
about,
what's
like,
nice is to talk to people who say that but are nice and like still your friends, and
yeah,
have
I suppose
Do you
so.
conversations
prefer
about
your
that kind of
copium
thing.
original recipe or new flavor?
That's
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Um, but yeah, no, there are a good deal of people I know who actively do kind of avoid learning too much because it would make what is the most fun part of the hobby for them no more fun. And I think that's
Yeah.
totally valid and probably a good idea for a lot of people, actually, because
I
they're
don't know,
right.
man.
Like, to a certain extent, if you're not the kind of person who already feels compelled to get into
The
like the nerd shit,
the
like
only thing there, though, is
forcing it
that,
isn't
like,
going to make it more fun.
I still think that you do yourself a disservice for the things that could potentially yield better experiences if you deliberately put your head in the sand.
I mean,
Or,
that's
like,
not untrue, but that doesn't make it like
like,
Well, it depends
I
on
what
what
I'm
your goal
saying,
is.
what I'm saying is, if you have infinite money, right, that's fine. But if you are trying to maximize your dollar, your spend, you may as well get something that you actually are likely to enjoy. You
Well,
may
yeah,
as
but
well
who
not.
says that that's what they're trying to do? Like, the experience of
Yeah, but
buying
you're
and
taking a
trying
massive
for a lot.
risk if you're just you know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, but
I
then
mean,
I
a
get
again,
lot
what
they
of
you're
have
these
saying.
people really are just purely experientialists. You know, they
yeah,
just want to try
Yeah.
something weird, have a weird experience, say it's
yeah,
the
that's the
best
thing.
thing
The
ever
weird
on the internet,
experience isn't like a
sell it
waste
in 2
to
weeks.
them. Like having a bad experience with a headphone to a lot of people
Yeah,
is just part of the
I don't
wider
know
journey
how
of learning
much
what you're about.
I don't know how much of that is, again, it's difficult to know really how prevalent that thought process is versus the cope that you see, right? Because the cope is way more vocal. Um or it is vocal. I don't know about more vocal. It's just
Yeah.
it is vocal, right? So a lot of the time those purchases that would in a direct comparison or blind, test scenario, be less preferred, are promoted and propped up because that was a person's. In a way, it's like they got fun out of uh, you know, diluting themselves into it being good, right? Because they spent a ton of money on it or something like that,
I mean,
right?
ignorance is bliss. Like I
Well,
do think it's a
and
problem when it
they
gets like vaunted by one person and then other people start buying that headphone based on
yes,
their
and it does happen. That's
experience. But
literally head fly.
yeah, no, but I
In
do
every
think
thread, there is
there's
somebody like
also
that. And
validity to the process of going through it by buying things and either liking them, not liking them, taking a kind of record of that, and
if you can,
through that
I would
learning
say,
what you like
yeah.
with probably a relatively less level of precision than someone who's you know a
I would advocate
craftsmith or
for
something
that.
like that.
Yeah, I would
But
advocate for that if you can, right? I just think the reality is that most people can't.
Well, I mean, you can. It's just about the rate at which you go through the hobby. Like, it used to be that
Conveniently,
people.
there is a store that has a 365-day return policy.
That is
So
true.
people can
I've
do
heard of
this.
that.
I think it's called headphones.com.
You might want
No,
to
no,
check
no.
that
Sorry,
out,
sorry, sorry. It's
particularly
called
if
no
you're trying to.
cap cans for
It's called the
realforreal.com.
soundhelmet.com. Wait, that's not real. That's a risky
We should
risky play.
probably get that domain.
The
Um,
soundhelmet.com. Yeah.
Someone in chat whose name I think is pronounced Sabine says, "Would it be safe to assume that Z reviews is an experimentalist?" And yeah, I am kind of thinking of Z when
Yeah.
I say this. Right? He's someone who pretty much invariably says something positive about headphones. It's very seldom that I see a review from him that is negative. And in general, he seems to simply give an honest account of his experience of something novel. And I think novelty for him is a big thing.
Oh, totally. And as
For
it is
sure.
for many people, I actually think this is a good point. I was originally going to, before this was the topic that came to my mind. because I'm a negative Nancy, was what are bad headphones? Because, and like that seems like an obvious thing. We talk about bad headphones all the time, but I actually think it's an interesting question to think about conceptually, philosophically. In a post non-HRTF related HPTF variation world, it becomes more challenging to, because people basically shouldn't be spider milking the peaks in above 3 kilohertz, like the fine grain shit, as much probably. Again, conjecture. It becomes more difficult to, like, you basically have a wider range of things that could potentially be considered good for somebody. So does it even make sense to talk about headphones being bad? And my answer is yes, obviously, for well, particularly below that range, but then also even above that range, there are disqualifiers that you can talk about. But the other side of it is, man, people don't really care about sound quality. Like people will listen to anything. Like I know this is true. Like
Shockingly, music is enjoyable.
yeah, like they'll so like it doesn't really make sense to talk about a sound delivery device as bad anymore, given people don't really care about sound quality that much. Or like they're not that's not the, let's say, the genuine acoustic performance of the product is not really the focus of their enjoyment of it, as much as other factors are.
Okay,
I
but
mean, no, I will say there's
saying
Go ahead.
headphones are bad is what makes the hobby fun for someone?
Yeah, then they're
kink shaming is my kink.
yeah, it was good. Yeah. No, but I mean, this is Kyle's reviews, right? I mean, like I imagine that's part of the fun. Is
I don't
to
know.
basically
Kyle's last few reviews have been pretty positive for things that.
But, okay, maybe that's a bad
Yeah,
example.
I don't
But you know
know.
what I mean, right? Like there
Yeah,
are people who
People
like,
have
I don't think
forgotten
it's
that Kyle is famous for two things. One of them is
liking
hating
Grado
almost
and
everything,
yeah, hating
and
everything.
the
That's what
other
I'm
is
saying.
liking weird shit.
Yeah,
yes, correct.
The second one is what people forgot.
it's true.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah.
But the first one is no less true.
Well, I mean, I think people have the same perception of us. Like, hating everything is something that we probably, to other people's perception, seems like we
Well,
take a
okay.
little bit too much
Okay.
glee
Here,
in.
here's an example, though. I have
I'm
a
just
product in right
honest.
now that I'm not able to talk about yet. But I have a product in right now that I'm evaluating that
That you
I
hate.
personally do not like. It sounds very strange to me.
Let the hate flow through you.
Okay, yeah. But it performs in such a way where I have to acknowledge that it is likely to sound good to people. And I know it sounds good to some people. Griffin knows what this product is. But
I do, and I wouldn't be so sure about that statement.
well, I know at least one example where it does. My point is more that like making universal statements about headphones being bad in let me back up. It's more that like it becomes difficult to give judgments beyond this is my experience with this product, and for me I didn't like it, right?
I mean, are we just rediscovering that all sweeping generalizations are incorrect? Like, yes, that is both a tautology and my favorite oxymoron, but it is like it's trivial. Any absolute sweeping generalization is incorrect for some case.
Yeah, which is why we have to go into likelihood and probability, right? Like, is this likely
Or
to be
people
enjoyed
can
by people?
accept
This is
that
getting a little
when we say-
You're-
hold
you're-
on. We're
you're-
just gonna
Oh, now it's getting fun.
getting a
Come
little
on.
too into the weeds. I'm gonna cut it
Well,
off.
no, I'm just saying, like, when we say this is bad, we're not saying it is physically impossible that any person will ever have a good experience with
No,
this.
but hold on. But that's
What
the
we're
point. The
saying can
point is
only
more
be
that as it relates to this concept of fun as well, right? Like among the tiniest core of people, we'd be able to make certain statements that would hold true across that same core of people, because there are people who do care about sound quality, but the vast majority of people don't, right? And so it is. I get what you're saying, Blaine, about generalizations, of course, right? But it is weird to even judge products in a way that people are supposed to take as like this is
okay. You're just regressing into solipsism here, man.
I'm not
Like
taking this position. I'm just asking the question, okay?
You're just asking questions. No, but I mean, seriously, when we say this is bad, there are only two ways that anyone can sanely take such a judgment. And this applies to every review, and I say this every time, but I'll keep saying it because people need to listen. Either A, it can be, this is my personal impression of this, e.g., if I'm doing a movie review and I say this is bad, I'm saying I don't like it. Or B, it can be taken as a generalized statement of, I think that in general, you, the
Yeah.
reader, will not like it.
Yeah.
This does not apply to every reader, and it cannot apply to every reader.
And I've said this. This is a good topic, and we talked about this before. And I said the same thing. That might be well and true. People don't do that. That's not how they approach this space. They think,
Well, yes, and those people can cope and seethe. Like,
which
there's
is
no
the
point in
majority of
talking
people.
about people who are basically zombies.
Yeah. So again, I have a product here that I can guarantee everybody in our sort of orbit would say is horrible.
Because we were paid to say that.
Yeah, clearly.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I've seen posts online of people saying, you know what, it's not perfect, but I like it. And
Many such cases.
and we can okay, there are many such cases. I'm gonna send you a graph, Griffin. Maybe when we get to the impressions, you can put it up on the screen.
Okay.
It's a preliminary graph. I haven't finished this. I really just started.
Look at this graph.
What the fuck?
Are you like the server or DMs?
And I sent it in a DM.
Okay.
We can put it up on the screen when we do the impressions.
Wow.
That's one where I'm just like, I couldn't listen to it for like more than a couple songs. It's really bad. But again, I've seen the commentary of people like it, and I don't think they're coping. I think it's just they're not scrutinizing this stuff for sound quality nearly to the degree that we are. And this is what brings, again, I'm trying to steelman the concept of like, you know, the people who are like, oh yeah, like fun is, you know, whatever. And this is kind of the axiom that I come up against, or not the axiom, the asymptote that I come up against, which is like, there are products that are so bad that I don't understand how we could apply any positive label to them, right? In any context.
Sorry about that.
But maybe that's just because I'm only listening out my own two ears, right? Like that's.
We just have a take in a chat that I want to highlight because it affirms my beliefs.
Those are the only ones you want to highlight.
Yes, of course. Brandon says, Resolve, you were wrong about the stock response to the Cosmo. My HRTF is superior, and that makes it sound bad to me. Plus
Cool.
1 to that. It also sounds bad to me.
Cool.
So 2v1, you lose.
Okay.
I also think that he might just
2v2.
be right about the HRTF being superior, because if that headphone is no, because like I like the Cosmo too, but I would much rather have the HRTF that makes like Hi-Fi Man headphones sound good.
There you go, because it's more.
I mean?
That's a good point.
There's so many more options. If like the Cosmos may be a little too dark for me, but like all other headphones are now like normal.
Actually,
oh my god, give me that HRTF, please. I want it.
I mean, you can actually have cosmetic surgery to change your penna's shape. You could just copy mine. You don't even actually need a real surgeon to do it, because
somebody's going to clip that and take it out of context, because the way you said that,
I don't like that.
Somebody clip that, please.
Well, sadly, I don't think that they have surgery that's capable of that amount of extension yet. So,
wow.
Okay, hold on. Let's get back to the topic a little bit, because we're kind of drifting.
Speaking of the Cosmo,
when it comes to
I did order those pads, so we'll check that. We'll
cool.
test for.
So to that end, what makes the hobby fun for a lot of other people is that when they do the whole buying thing, and aren't able to find something they like, which happens all the time and is reasonable, because no headphone is gonna, it's very unlikely that a headphone will fit someone's HRTF perfectly and have all the exact preference adjustments they would want or whatever. So when you're unhappy, what do? Well, a lot of people make headphones or mod headphones, and I feel like that's something I've not really.
People, you mean like 20 to 100 people?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's dozens. There's dozens of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a majority or plurality or anything like that. It is a small group, but
yeah, Blake,
it is enough people to
to
where I don't have names and faces to all of them. But I have met more than I can remember the names of. Uh, that's a side I haven't really explored, but you two have a fair deal. And I guess my question is that one of the things that makes the hobby itself fun to you both?
Yes, it is actually the only thing that makes the hobby fun. No, I'm joking.
I
Oh, that's
mean,
interesting. Huh.
no, I mean, he's not joking, actually.
It
Privately, he
is.
has basically expressed
It,
that sentiment
it
to
is.
me.
It is where I get my jollies these days. Is through modding and doing, yeah, making my own stuff.
I mean, to me, like, I'm kind of done with headphones like that, and that's sort of the thing for all of us. That's why we're so cynical, is that we're not in the, oh, I had a novel experience, time to write a blog about it phase of the hobby anymore. We all just sort of want to enjoy the music that we enjoy, and that's why we're all finding entertainment in like in different aspects of the hobby. In the case of Griffin and I, it's just going deep on the
The
nerd
research.
shit, the
Yeah.
science, the causal shit. For
Oh,
you, Andrew, it's the modification and the, like, which is its own, like, but we're all
it's a
just
bit
basically
ironic
like,
that you're into the causal shit when you also believe that there's no such thing as causal inference.
well, I
No,
mean,
bad. Spray bottle
trade-offs.
emote. No, bad. Bad. Gonna
Trade-offs.
mute you.
But the question of epistemic validity aside, the we are all basically, we're pursuing a new hobby inside this hobby.
Yes.
Andrew's new hobby is DIY. Our new hobby is sort of science fanboyism, and, well, I mean, mine's kind of split between the two. But that's also why we're so cynical of most headphones. And in some respects, I think that makes you guys good reviewers. I think hypothetically it would make me a
Well,
reasonable reviewer,
it's like what
because
Douglas said.
all we,
There's no excuse for like some of the tunings that we see.
well, yeah, and what all we're looking for is something that's better than what we already have, and all of us have a reference point for a headphone that we really enjoy at this point.
With EQ.
So, yeah, well, some of us. Um, and at that point, all that there really is say, can this actually raise the bar for me? And when it doesn't, then you have to say, okay, well, like, why does this product justify its existence? And usually it doesn't, and
Mhm.
that's why we generally are fairly negative to stuff, because it doesn't raise the bar, because most things don't, and we're not just here to have an, oh, interesting new experience. Like, I enjoy that like a few times a year, but if a new headphone showed up at my door every day, I would get bored of it so fucking fast.
That's literally the plight of a reviewer.
So I'm
So
actually not sure I'm quite there
that's
yet.
because you're young and fresh and nubile.
You're
I'm the
getting
same.
there.
I'm the same age as Blaine, but Blaine is 60 years older in audio
In
years.
the exactly, yeah. Yeah. You haven't
But yeah, no.
yet
So I've
crusted over.
I've had every single can jam. I hear something that, even if I don't think I would like to own it at home, it is probably something I would like to like write a blog post
Yeah.
about my experience about. So I don't know if I'm quite to the level of like
You are the
completely
least
divorced
jaded
from
of the three of
enjoyment.
us.
Yeah, I think
I mean,
I
and
I, I
Cameron
share
is yet less
attributes
jaded
common to
than
both of
you.
you. Wait,
Mhm.
what?
Well, I mean, and it's, Cameron is less jaded than you. I've talked about this when all four of us have been on. Cameron is actually still fully just enjoying the experience. You, at least half of the time, and I think that half is charitable, are focused on the nerd shit rather than the experiential shit. Um, which is, I mean, which is fine. Like, I think of all the coping mechanisms for, this is a finite hobby and there's only so much interest to be had in hearing new headphones, that's one of the healthier ones. Obviously, I'm biased because that was mine as well, but still. But
Yeah.
like, what I'm saying is that this hobby is not one that you can stay in forever, just being like, oh wow, this one has a 7 dB peak in this frequency. Wow, that's a novel experience. Eventually, it gets old, and it does
What
get
Yeah.
old for everybody. And the way that people deal with it is what varies.
Yeah. I mean, to me though, the experiences themselves when it's good is still worthwhile and not like I don't to me it's like, I could be jaded about products that come in if, and the industry and all this stuff, but like at the end of the day when I'm actually like, using products that I genuinely enjoy, it's a very good experience. And
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why we're happy when something raises the bar. Like if you get a new headphone
yeah,
that's cheap and really good, you're like, sick. Now people can have a good experience cheaper.
yep,
If
that's
you
exactly it.
if you have like if you find like a new flagship that's better than everything else, you're like, sick. Now I have a new thing that
That's
is my goal to own.
I mean, that's why this when this UX 3000 showed up, I was like, this. I mean, it raises the bar for sound quality and noise canceling headphones. It's that good. Now, is it like it's better than stuff that costs like $1,500? Um, and the excitement there for me is like um slightly ruined given its completely cursed ergonomics and the, all the rest of the issues that it has. But for sound quality, yeah, it does that. I was gonna say the flip side to this, the sort of more jaded, cynical side of things, where again it does relate to fun because we look for fun in, as you put it, Blaine, kind of like a subsection of the hobby, right? There is also maybe for more people, because they haven't done this, their fun comes from kind of like the mythology of, this was a headphone that was designed by a designer and
The
had this
lore.
story behind how it came to be, and like they're usually exorbitant price tags, but like that's kind of part of it too, because there's an aspirational quality for a lot of people when it comes to those products. And
You know what I
so
fucking miss?
what's
Hmm.
this?
I miss Faust and the people like him. I know that you two are too fucking green to remember that, but Faust 3D used to be a guy who had a wiki of ancient headphones, like shit going back to the
Yeah,
60s.
that's cool.
Um, well, yeah, and I miss the people who were collectors, but they just collected the weird ancient
And
shit.
they weren't chasing like, amazing sound quality necessarily. Just
Yeah, I mean, some of them
interesting
did the
stuff.
whole, oh, this
Yeah.
ancient discontinued thing was actually the holy grail of all headphones. But a lot of them were just like, I
Was it
just want to collect weird old
that's
headphones.
that Sony headphone still has a little bit of that,
The Sony headphone, the Sansui
yeah,
SS100,
yeah,
all of the old planar stuff from the 70s
yeah,
actually had that rep. But no, I mean, I think that there was an interesting vibe there, and that's a subculture I've watched kind of fade away a bit.
yeah.
I think because headphones are being released so fast that people don't need to just go into the past to find something weird.
Hmm.
But someone asked in chat,
Great
Goethe's
Greatest
Faust?
Puffs.
Absolutely the canonically better version.
Yes.
Marlowe's one is kind of mid.
Uh, yeah.
But
No, but you're right. I
yeah,
have seen that kind of.
I was more of a
Well,
fan of
I
Design than
was
Famous Fantas.
that no.
The Suffering
I
of Young
feel like
Werther.
it is a
I
classic.
feel like
It's
I
great.
saw the tail end of that. And actually it was pretty popular in the DankPod's Discord server.
I mean, it makes
That
sense.
server
DankPod's
had
whole thing is classic stuff.
Mhm.
yeah,
Well, Grados.
going
That's the
diving
whole
for
reason
nuggets,
Grados
as you
exist.
would say.
People are into
But
that.
that was popular with a lot of his viewers. So even the younger people would go to like thrift shops and vintage stores and Goodwill and just
They're
go
gonna pop
diving
some
for random
tags.
stuff and sometimes find something that's interesting at least. Rarely an actually good headphone, but I do think that that kind of impulse to go trudging through the past to find something actually good has kind of been lost to time a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't
But
necessarily know that it's like that people are worse off for it, but it was a nice little thing, even if I wasn't taking part in it.
see, I remember I happened to be in an audio store when maybe I think I told the story before, maybe, but I happened to be in an audio store where a guy was he came in to buy an LCD3, and this was at the time when I can't. It felt like like this was the bad era for the. Do you remember there was like the particularly the
Are you talking
memory? I
about
think
in Odyssey?
yeah, like I think there were no,
Yeah.
there's the memory foam pads, I think. But anyways,
Yes.
I remember because I remember they had a bunch of different things on demo, and I remember listening to it and being like, why would anybody buy this? Doesn't make sense to me. Um, and but this person was so excited and so thrilled and so just like I don't know everything about that experience for him, like the purchase experience of this high end headphone was special. And I remember afterwards talking to the guy at the store, the guy, the shop owner. Um, like, oh, that's a big purchase or something like that. And he's like, yeah, he's been coming in, for a long time listening to it,
Hmm.
and he finally bought it. So like a lot of this is like, what is it, fulfillment? Like it's like aspirational fulfillment for people. Um,
Sure.
and to your point, there is a sense in which like ignorance is bliss. Like if this person doesn't know that thing is bad, and again, people don't care that much about sound quality, their experience is better for it. And uh it's no wonder people cope online when you say this thing is not that great, because this hobby is fun in that aspirational sense for a lot of people. They get a lot of
Hmm.
enjoyment out of it, and then when you break that spell with your cynical take about the product that they like, is nothing to, like, it probably does have everything to do with the money they spent on it, but I don't think that the fun aspirational part of it is necessarily tied to that. It's probably like the cope that you see is probably because, they had an experience that was ultimately enriching and rewarding, and you've just robbed them of that with
Invalidated
your
it.
invalidated with your cynical, take. And
Well, and I mean, ultimately, this is just comparison is the thief of joy writ
yeah,
large, right? Like, if you
yeah,
have something that you enjoy personally, a product, whatever, you will have more joy from it if you do not engage with the online community around that product.
and
Because
that's
all
good
you're going to
advice.
find there is a lot of people with other products that they like, a lot of more expensive products that are alleged to be better than yours, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
All
think
right.
if we turn to another bit about what makes this hobby fun, it is actually maximizing sound quality. So like there's the people that like are doing so with one hand tied behind their back because they're just buying the products out there. There are people that are doing it maybe with a few fingers pinned down because they're buying something, being unhappy with it, and then trying to make it better with usually mixed results, and plenty of confirmation bias baked in. But then there are people who are using things like EQ to like actually figure out what they very consistently like and dislike, and getting their sound quality to reach an actual ceiling that cannot be supplanted by any product on the market or any other process. And while that
That's
is
where I get joy.
fun,
That's fun for
while
me.
that is fun,
I'm the
it is
equalizer.
it is also the kind of like end point of sound being why you're here. Because once you've done that, you're not going to go back to listening to something that is like markedly worse for really any reason other than maybe convenience. Like I like
Yeah.
my EQ'd HD 800 more than my AirPods Pro 2, but I still use these because I don't have to use equalization and they sound fine and they have other things that are going for them. But at home, I mean, I basically only use that headphone with the EQ I have for it because it sounds exactly the way I want it to and better than any headphone I've ever heard by an order of magnitude or two. So
Well, it's funny you should
the
mention that.
chase is there and the chase is fun. But
Yeah,
once you get there, you got to start your sub
you got
hobby
you
as
got
we
to do
talked
something
about.
else. Like that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um this I was just going to say this is actually a headphone that I don't I okay, for folks unaware, the first thing I do when I get a new headphone in, like I personally like something to listen to,
Is you sniff it.
is yeah, yeah, exactly. And then I figure out, okay, like what adjustments am I going to make to personalize this so that I can get the most out of it, and my maximum fun, my maximum enjoyment of the music out of
And
it.
this is while you're listening to it.
Yeah, while I'm listening to it, I'm yeah, obviously I do the measurements too, but like this is a subjective thing for me. Um, but this headphone, Aeon Closed, Aeon Closed X, uh, I don't need to do hardly anything to it to make it sound the way I want it to. It's one of the rare products that is like, I mean, I add bass, I add more bass because I like fun. Um, and I do this. Unfortunately, it has a channel imbalance, so the only thing I EQ is this unit has a channel imbalance. So the only thing I EQ is the I think it's like minus -2 dB on the left channel. That's it. But yeah, like, I mean, there are what you were saying about, like, getting it as fine grained as possible, and spider milking for your own subjective kind of like stuff. That is in and of itself the fun part, but yeah, that's why it's so rewarding when you come across products where what you need to do is minimal, right? Or
Sure.
like, I mean, yeah, there are things that I would improve with this still, but like
Yeah.
I would never feel like I had to, and it would be minimal. So, that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, look,
to
those
me.
are generally the headphones that I actually feel okay about recommending. Are the
Yeah,
ones that like come across my desk or I hear at a show and I'm like, nothing immediately comes to mind in terms of
yeah,
like a fatal flaw of this headphone, which
yeah,
to be clear, at least on when I'm wearing the sound helmet and my anatomy interacts with it, a lot of headphones have fatal flaws. So it's just like I have to think more about, is this really going to be a safe recommendation for other people?
mhm,
And there's still plenty of headphones where I don't like them at all, but I think other people might. But the ones that like I are just like good right out of the gate, maybe not great, maybe not perfect, but good. I think they usually tend to be okay, like
yeah.
for other people. And I usually feel okay about recommending them for that reason. And they're usually the ones that I do like to write about or, do content about, because I don't know, I feel like it's very rare that those are ones that are just like cranked out of the machine of low effort headphone companies. Like usually the ones that I find enjoyable are not just like one that was slapdash put together, like because it usually has a pretty decent mid-range. It usually is well controlled in the treble, and the bass usually isn't crazy either. And while those are biased statements based on my own taste, like it does kind of hold up as far as like the ones that I have positively reviewed. And the ones you've positively
NetRise in
reviewed.
chat says, if we're listening to this live, I think we already have our next hobby.
Which
Oh,
is
God help you if that's true.
Yeah, I mean, if we're your next hobby, I don't know what to tell you, but I think you need a better hobby.
That's what to tell them, I think.
modding headphone reviewers. All right, should we move on to the next topic?
Real quick, I do want to say, once you have found a sub hobby, arguably the best, because like when you're still like finding your footing or finding your products that you like and dislike and all that stuff and having the experiential stuff, like I find a lot of times the community can be a little bit tough to navigate because you haven't really understood where you are relative to them yet. Now, it's not always the case. Like there are a lot of people who have been in it for a very long time and are pure experientialists and are just fine vibing that way. But I find that when you've like kind of uh, offshot into your side hobby or sub hobby within this hobby, and then you get into a community that's like hospitable to that, that's really fun. Like when you find a bunch of nerds who are into the exact same thing you are in the same way, oh
Mm,
buddy, what a good
yeah,
time.
that's a
Like
good point.
I know there are like negatives to communities like that, like information siloing and general kind of inflexibility and authority games and stuff like that. But overall, it's really fun to have friends and talk about things you all enjoy in a
Man, it's
space where
fun to
like
interact
no
with your
one's just calling
friends.
you an
I
idiot
just,
out of nowhere.
I, I just like the idea that, like, like I was talking to somebody recently who said that headphones should be fun, and I was like, yeah,
Well, they are. It's
when I
just
want
people
to,
ruin them.
well, I was gonna say, when I want to have fun, I don't listen to headphones for fun. I listen to headphones for serious listening. Like this idea of like a scowl on my face, like sat there. It's like, well, only the finest of jazz.
I
I-
personally hate music and also friends.
yeah, it's like
Based.
no, yeah,
Good take.
I don't have fun. Like if I want to have fun in my life, I play Deadlock. And I don't listen to music for fun. It's a serious endeavor. All right, let's move on.
Yeah. So
Well,
we have a
can we
few
just
other. Oh, go ahead.
There was just someone who keeps commenting. Rando in chat keeps talking about channel imbalance in high-end headphones, and I don't know why, but I feel like it's one that we can just quickly address. He says high-end headphones should never have channel imbalances. Why spend that much if they're not going to match the drivers? The drivers are not the dominant source of channel imbalances in headphones.
Yeah, like
They are a source, but it's much easier to pair
yeah.
match drivers than everything else.
I don't actually know about this one, if what's the case, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's actually to do with the pads, because these pads are they are meant to be adhesive, and if the adhesive is not perfectly flush, there could be a gap between the pad and the baffle, and then that could cause leakage.
My intuition is that pads would be a much more common contributor to that, not only in how they're manufactured, like their consistency, but in how
but also how they wear.
And how they wear.
Yeah. So there's that.
Making pair match speakers is much easier than making pair matched headphones.
Mind you, there are certain designs that are better for this, like the HD800's design with the pads that are not as compressy or not as influential.
Yeah, I mean they're just a little gasket.
Yeah. That makes it easier because you don't have challenging variables to deal with, as challenging variables compared
Although
to.
Although it adds some new ones.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The mesh and it being clogged over time with gunk.
Yeah. But another example is like those the ovoid shaped hi-fi meds are pretty damn consistent across different heads. So if there is a channel imbalance there, that's probably it's for the same reasons, right? It's often because there's a gap between the pad and the baffle. Right.
Yeah, I mean, there are designs that can minimize this. I think that those are good designs. My point here is that the expectation, he earlier said within 0.5 dB, you're unlikely to find headphones that have that degree of channel agreement ever. Just because even on your head, you won't find that.
People have very little sense of what's perceptually relevant when it comes to channel balance.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I get the sense that the argument he's making is more so just about like,
it's not okay.
The amount you spend should directly correlate to how good the channel balance is, which to an extent,
which I respect.
But yeah. But I think there needs to be a realistic ceiling on that expectation that I don't think 0.5 dB is really within.
I'm looking at this right now. This one is 429, although I'm not sure if that's Canadian or American.
If only it was 420.69.
Damn, so close.
Yeah. But this is the one from Mastrop. And yeah, like every time I go back to it, I'm consistently impressed with the sound that they have at this price. I just the channel imbalance is an issue on this unit, but like I would hope that that's not how it is for most people who buy this one.
I will say that I, completely separate from that, have just received an anecdote from someone else about, I believe, that same headphone. It was on the ASR thread about my talk where I was talking about HPTF stuff, and he was commenting on the fact that he has poor channel balance, but he actually measured his drivers in free air and they matched very well. So he suspects that it's a coupling variation in situ.
There you go, and that's the problem. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. What's our next?
So which one do you want to move on to?
I just want to move on.
Okay. Well, we have a few options here.
Do you want to quickly shout out Pud's YouTube channel?
Sure. So for those who aren't aware,
has a YouTube channel.
Yeah, Pud of Reddit fame is now Pud of YouTube fame. He started a YouTube fame. Yeah, of course. He started a YouTube channel recently. I think it's called Pud Makes Headphones. So easy to remember, easy to find. You can just look it up in the search bar. Is that what it is? Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good get. That's a good it's a good handle. Yeah, so he's put out 3 videos so far. One of them making a headphone out of a cassette deck that is mounted on the headphone itself. So it's just a complete portable device, though it looks very heavy. There's one made of Crocs, which it was the one I think that looked the most reasonable out of any of the designs that he posted so far. On the
it isn't actually made out of Crocs. He created.
He just has a Croc on
something that looks like a Croc.
Oh, okay, got it.
Did you
It's
think that he had just modded a crock?
Yeah, I thought he like literally just sliced off like the silicone and just tacked it on there. So that's
Nice.
the one I didn't watch because I watched the weights one because he made a headphone for the gym. I think was how he started the video, but it was just a very silly
A
weight
headphone to
headphone.
cure being a necklet.
Yes, and then I watched the cassette deck one too, but. Yeah, for those who want to see a silly guy make some silly headphones, yeah, those are like actually quite nice to watch too. Like they're not crazy long, but you do get to see the process of him making the headphone. And if you've never seen someone make a headphone before, because there really isn't a ton of content out there like that, highly recommend it. He's also just a good guy and we like him. So definitely want to shout him out.
Yeah. Yeah. The next options are we could talk about DMS's burn-in video.
Yeah, so I think there are a few things to talk about with this. So for those who haven't seen it, on his personal channel, DMS has done a video where he did a controlled comparison of burn-in across 3 different dynamic drivers. And what he did was he made a test jig for those drivers to basically friction fit perfectly into a enclosure that a coupler or a microphone can just directly go right into, airtight, right in front of the driver. And they're right here in an enclosed space at a fairly controlled, like within a millimeter distance, as far as placement variation. And he tested the effects of, I think it was 110 hours of burn-in on each driver and found, of surprise to no one here, that the effects were
Well, hold on.
fairly minimal.
The funny
What's
thing
up?
is, and like YouTube comments are often the most insane things. But I saw commentary about people saying, "See, this proves that burn-in is real," because there were some tiny little differences there, right?
Well, but those differences
So
were just due to
It's
fucking
that's
placement
what.
variation.
Yeah, sure, exactly, yeah,
So this is actually like a little bit of not criticism, but something that I told Doug to do that I think was too late in the process for him to actually do it. But one of the things I feel like he could have done better with that video is providing the context for how large the other factors are. Like he
yeah,
didn't really like contextualize, okay, like this is the level of burn-in, this is the level of placement variation inside the controlled system I'm using, this is the level of placement variation of like these 3 drivers on the same headphone, and then this is the placement variation of a headphone that you would actually typically buy.
yeah. That
Like I
that
feel like
is
he could have more
yeah,
clearly
that would be.
delineated the levels to illustrate how much that little
But
bit really
also
didn't matter.
that there is something responsible
Yeah.
for the little changes, right?
Well,
That
no, he did do that. He has a
which
whole
was
section about placement variation and specifically comparing the magnitude and frequencies of where placement varied the response with where there was
on
supposedly
the delta
burn-in change.
graph.
Yes,
Okay,
Mhm.
okay,
it's around 4 minutes.
okay, cool.
So no, like I honestly, possibly an unpopular take here, but I actually think that it's good that he kept it limited in scope. Like sometimes, if we try to include every
Yeah, I kind of
variable,
agree because
things
you.
become difficult for people to understand, and DMS
Yeah,
is pretty good at keeping things punchy.
like I actually think that
Yeah,
the
I think it would have been very easy to just put a video or just put a graph of like this is the variation of a HD 600 or whatever, and just overlay the burn-in graph over
well,
that.
okay, but
Like
hold
it
on
would have
because I
been
don't think
pretty
that's
simple and
really.
easy to understand.
I saw 2 criticisms. One was two weird comments, consistently. One was this proves that burn-in is real, which I thought was like okay, but you just need to watch the video again. But the second was the burn-in does this is not applicable to good drivers because he you know what I mean, like he only used
I
the
didn't see
old.
that take. I
Question mark?
love that take.
Well, no, but you know what I mean, right? Like it's the same thing that like fits with people's worldview about like driver story and whatever else, right? with the burn-in doesn't exist for most headphones that use these generic drivers, but for these special ones, yeah, you got to do it right, and that's what this was.
There is a sliver of truth to this, right?
Yeah.
Like different driver designs have different patterns of mechanical break-in because they have differences in how their surrounds are configured. And if you ask Constantine about this, he'll do the
Yes.
well. Actually, there is a case where this happens. You know,
he'll talk he'll talk about like I can't remember, as it goes up in frequency, there's a chance that it can for that moment change or something like that.
yeah,
He
no, I
gave me the
mean,
explanation a long time ago. I think it was like to do
and
with the membrane stiffness changing or something.
yeah, and I mean things do change, right? Like
Yeah.
there is a mechanical effect of break-in and wear-in, but the actual and how much that happens depends on the level of travel, which is another thing.
Yeah.
So for a woofer, you do see measurable but small differences when the surround has broken in. And what we're talking about is on the order of less than 1 hertz of resonance frequency shift. But like there is a reason that a number of manufacturers will specify the woofers broken in. Because
Mhm.
when you have travels of multiple millimeters, you do see some small changes to the mechanical properties of the surround. And for some weird drivers, like ribbons, for example, you might see some small changes very quickly from when they have not been moved at all. But people who are like, "Oh, this changes everything," are absolutely coping, or more accurately, they're subject to the placebo effect.
Well, other factors, padware.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, there's people who say that there's this massive change within the first 100 hours, or even without wearing the headphone and just playing it
Oh,
for 100 hours.
did you guys see that one post? The guy was like headphone in a nutshell, and it was like a person saying they after, I can't remember what they, maybe it was they switched to cable or they did something, right? And then they're like, oh my god, this issue that I was having, the sibilance that I was having, went away. And then like shortly thereafter, it was another post of them being like, I returned it. Returned products.
I did see that post
Yeah.
actually. I know what you're
Yep,
talking about.
I was like, yeah,
that was a good post.
that's how it
That
goes.
was a good post.
Um, the
Yeah.
duality of
hmm
headphone.
Yeah. All it
but
takes is
but
time.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I don't imagine this, as much as Doug's video was a necessary one. I don't imagine it would do all that much to, or has done all that much to dissuade people who are already very much burn and pilled in that sense. More so that it speaks to the people who are unsure,
Yeah, no, I mean
and that's good.
the purpose of missionaries is not to convert the other side's
Not
apostles,
not
you
to
know,
convert
it's
the
to convert the
atheists.
undecided.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What was interesting to me, like more interesting than anything I think we've mentioned so far, though, was uh, it seems like a massive part of the community, like a commanding majority of the community, is like already fully on the yep, burn in, it doesn't matter bandwagon. Like most people
Does that
were,
surprise you?
I mean, I wouldn't say it surprises me. I would just say it was the good thing that came from that video. Whereas like all of the people coping is less fun to deal with after that. Um, but I was, yeah, if not maybe if not surprised by how many were just like totally copacetic with the take in the video, how many or how few like detractors I saw. It was a very small number of people that we're talking about right now who were
Mhm.
like, this proves burn-in is real.
Well, yeah, usually it is a small, particular vocal subset of people who, I like, we saw it recently on one of the in the commentary on the technicalities live stream that we did, where there was some commentary about, I'm sure you saw it as well, where basically it was like, no, you guys are missing this and this and this and this, and it was
Well,
all those
are you
things.
talking about the comment that was mad about the fact that we always use headphones with good drivers, but we say that drivers
Oh,
don't matter or whatever?
that, I mean, that was actually kind of funny. I thought
No,
it was
but
more
that
about.
one,
I
yeah,
liked that one because it was like, it's kind of true.
yeah.
We did say that, the you said LCD5, I said Sysvara.
Well, yeah, they're
We did,
colored.
yeah, which was kind of the point, I think. But anyways, the no, I meant more the person's saying, well, I'm gonna ask a bunch of manufacturers, and maybe they're watching this now. So shout outs to you. Good luck. I'd be curious what they say, but at the same time, I it's not really a
Wait, ask a
mystery
bunch of
to me,
manufacturers what?
or what they think of the driver's story. Like, is the driver's story real?
Ah,
You know,
I feel like
is
that's the
there a there
worst
there?
people to
No,
ask because they have
that's what I'm
like the
saying.
most incentive
To
to.
tell, yeah, I mean, that's
I
like
mean, like,
these narratives come from the marketing material that they themselves put on the box. So
well, yeah, but I mean, like, you can't be like, "Hey, Jack Daniel's whiskey owner, is it true that aging in barrels is in fact impactful on the flavor of the whiskey?" Like, even if they know the answer and it contradicts their marketing, you cannot reasonably expect them
yeah.
to
I,
say that.
so I actually think though in our industry, because as you said before, Blaine, it's well, we don't need to go there, but like I have encountered manufacturers and engineers who do genuinely believe burn-in matters a lot, and they will do this, and they recommend. So they're not just. This isn't just that part of DMS's video where he said that a lot of it is like them trying to convince you to get used to the headphone, to use it for like 100 hours, right? The manufacturers themselves are genuinely burn-in pilled because they believe it makes a difference. um
Some of
I
them are
don't.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, this industry has enough weird small shops that you can pretty much find people who believe in any weird thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like if the person is going to go ask the manufacturer, what do you think? You're the engineer. Tell me, does this matter? There are, yes, there are probably going to be examples where they say it matters because it's literally on the box of their products, but there are also ones who are going to say it matters because they genuinely believe it's true. Get your case.
I
okay.
mean,
Turning off the stream now. Bye.
that's not actually a Gettier case, though. That's like the converse of a Gettier case.
Yes, but it has the same structure of a
The
Gettier
correct
case.
answer was, yep, that's a Gettier case. Moving on.
It's an unjustified, untrue belief.
Yes, it's true, but the person making there's a way to frame it as the Gettier case, where basically they got to the same
No,
conclusion for
no,
the
no, no,
wrong
no, no.
reasons.
No, we're not doing this. So I think that's all we have to say about the burn-in thing, right?
Yes. Let's move
Okay.
on to what's the best way to EQ without
Um,
knowing the listener's HRTF slash
well, wait, there is
HTTF.
actually one thing that was
What's up?
brought up in chat, which probably should never not be brought up in a burn-in thing, but whenever burn-in comes up, it's worth dredging up the fact that for some reason people act like it's always an improvement, even if it was
Oh
just if
I
it was
love
an
that take.
actual
yes,
mechanistic
I thought
change,
that was so good.
I
it
love that
should.
take about
I
every
saw
single
that in a
like
couple of places.
mythologized audio
Yeah.
quality thing. Like the
Mhm.
same people who say that like EQ always makes a headphone worse. A smaller
Yep.
group to be sure, but like how can it always be worse?
Yeah.
Well, and that's like something that we shouldn't like let off the hook, which we kind of are
Yeah.
if we don't bring up how
Absolutely.
silly that
And it's the
concept
No,
same
you're
with
right.
is.
with amps and cables and whatever else, right? Like, the cable one is the most interesting to me because that's you have people buying $1,000 plus cables saying, "Oh my god, it really opened up the sound." You rarely ever see them saying, "Oh yeah, it made the sound so much worse." Um,
I have
the
actually encountered that
I
weirdly
have encountered
solely
it,
with
yeah,
cable people.
but
Like,
here's
cable people
the
are the
thing.
only people I've seen be like, "This
Okay,
silver
but
cable really made everything super harsh."
yeah, because the silver is bright and copper, that whole meme, right? But like, what I'm talking about specifically though is like there are situations where cables will tangibly make a difference, like in certain IEMs that have ultra low impedances and they do have a nonlinear impedance curve, right? So you could have examples, and I'm thinking of it's true. You like what was there was a Let Sure one not that long ago where there was a potential for a cable to actually have an effect on the sound, but what I'm saying is that you don't know what that effect is going to be unless you're measuring it. Like so that's why I always say like you may as well EQ because then at least you can be deliberate. You can actually make choices that are more likely to be subjectively enjoyable to you because you're the one dictating where that goes, not at the whim of whatever the fuck the impedance curve was of the product. So
Rob
even in
Hawk
those,
brings an interesting idea to bear, and I think that we should invest in it. Aging whiskey in burning barrels strengthens the flavor, which probably is true, and I would be interested in that as a gimmick.
see, knowing you and knowing you to be a non-alcohol drinker, like the fact that you brought up the Jack Daniels example with aging whiskey in barrels, it's a bit funny to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've drunk whiskey before.
Do you enjoy whiskey?
No.
Okay.
Lane
I'm
drinks
just
and he knows things
to me it's
without
like
the
so
drinking.
like outside of your, realm of interest.
But what's interesting about the cable people being the ones that will say this expensive thing is negative, I actually think the other groups will as well if they're comparing it to something else that is expensive too.
Yes, exactly.
Like you'll really see them see that
Yeah.
you'll rarely see them say that a $3,000 cable or amp or I don't know, some funny boxes, uh, like head and shoulders better with no compromises next to this other similarly priced box, but it's
Yeah.
always better than the Apple dongle or
Yeah.
just the included stock cable or whatever.
I have a hot take.
Please.
I feel like that's the difference between the people who are actually true believers, I guess, in this, and the ones who are just sort of lost in in the very specifically priced placebo sauce. Because I do acutely remember back in the day, it was not uncommon for someone to be like, and actually, I was in Mark's chat yesterday, and he had someone who was also a graybeard of the audio hobby, and he was commenting on, people were like, oh, the Sansa Fuse player actually has as good of a DAC as a $200 Meyer or whatever. And that I remember those things did happen. Like there have always been these people who were, I guess you could say that they weren't just placebophiles, or they were placebophiles, but like they were actually interacting with the concept of DACs and cables and stuff having sound qualities in a way that was like how people interact with headphones.
Mhm.
And in a
Yes.
weird way, I almost feel like that group of people has sort of died out over time, and now there's just much more of a more expensive equals more betterer. I mean, they still exist. You
Yeah,
still see
they
people like,
do.
what kind of tin-eared person would listen to Audio GD or Denafrips or whatever? I only buy, this or that. But it is interesting to me that we have sort of, I remember that being much more of a thing where people would be like, this weird little thing has the best sounding DAC I've ever heard, and it's made by, Apple or by Sansa or whatever. It feels like that has decreased with time. Maybe it's just because those people have kind of accepted reason, or maybe it's
I
I
mean,
don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. I do still see because like whenever you see people disagreeing about source gear that isn't
Ne-
just like a
Never
MacBook
attribute.
head out or a dongle or something, they are kind of in that camp, right? Because they are already comparing the things that are like more money than they needed to pay to listen to music, but they are doing so based on some perception they had of the sound quality difference between them. And I feel like if they're doing that, they kind of have to be the true believers and not just the price pilled people, because the price pilled people would basically always say the more expensive thing is better, as you say. But
yeah.
that's not always the discussion I see.
Yeah, no, I think that there are a body of people who are having internally coherent hallucinations, in my view.
We're all having internally coherent. Well, we're all having internal hallucinations to one degree of coherence or another.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Someone in chat is trying to convince me to try absinthe, and I'm really not that into it
You won't
as
like
an
it.
idea. No,
that's
No,
a
I don't
bad
think I
idea.
will.
That's a bad
Um,
idea.
Stephen McTowley says EQ squeezes the drivers. Nice.
So true.
Nice. Yeah, get my driver squeeze on.
That really squeezed my drivers.
Okay, you guys ready to move on?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I was debating putting this in Fight Club actually. But this comes from a
I don't have anything
comment
for Fight Club,
on
so
yeah. So if you guys want to move up Fight Club, we can here. But basically,
I'm down for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
this was from a comment on, I think, Blaine's video, and kind of the follow-up to it.
Was it?
The comment...
No, this was on the live stream we did recently.
Yeah, but it starts. So regarding the talk and the follow-up to it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. I think it could be useful to some folks to provide some guidance, if not a wizard, because that's probably quite hard, on how to adjust EQ at least partially to compensate for the difference in HRTF and HPTF that would stand out to a listener. So through perceived quality. And I'm talking specifically about guidance on doing these adjustments without having the listener's measured HRTF and HPTF in situ. So that would be, or because that would massively limit the applicability of the method.
Right.
In
So
other
basically,
words, talking about doing EQ to adjust things like the 6.1K resonance that you have mentioned in a lot of IEM content.
Yeah. So and this speaks to kind of like a problem generally for the message that we put out there on the topic of something like non-HRTF related HPTF. As soon as we start bringing that up, before in the older sort of paradigm, people would just EQ to a target and then be like, all right, I got my confidence that this is good sound quality, and then listen to music and be happy. Now we're
to be fair, that is still very prevalent. That is still
yes,
the
yeah, but that's
majority
also
of people.
kind of the reason a lot of people have like bad experiences with EQ.
With EQ, exactly, and
sure.
people who've watched our content on that subject, like the non-HRTF related HPTF variation, it's in.
Are we not a fan of my RHPTF as a name? I feel like it's less.
I'm fine with it. But my point is more that like the video, and the talk, right?
Yeah.
So for folks who are unaware, we did a video, what is sound quality recently, and then Blaine did a talk. That's what that's about. But
yes, and non-HRTF related HPTF and relative HPTF, they are the same.
They're the same.
So concept.
More to the point, we have basically showed them that there is a problem without giving them a path to a solution. And so that's why this topic is like, okay, well, faced with this, what the fuck do we do? Do we just have to then now listen to headphones? Which, by the way, if you guys want to,
God
do that,
forbid.
there's a store that has a 365-day return policy that you guys can check out, where you can buy headphones and not feel locked into the purchase for a year, which is crazy. So you can.
I will note for the people who are into placebo that also applies to our DACs and amps and our cables. Actually, not all of our cables.
And to the people who genuinely feel this stuff makes a difference, but like beyond placebo, like Cameron. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so a few things to unpack here, because some people might not be familiar with all of the stuff this is talking about, both in terms of the relative HPTF, the sound quality video, all that stuff. So basically what we found when examining some measurements on actual humans is that above 2 to 3 kilohertz or so, the variation between listeners, independent of HRTF, so just the measured response on people's heads once HRTF is relatively controlled for, is quite wide, above a certain frequency. And it is such that it makes the prospect of EQing to a single line based on a head that is not the person listening to the headphone kind of hard to tell someone to do with a straight face, because we have fairly decent evidence to show that there would be some problems above a certain frequency for a lot of people. And this is purely speculation, but anecdotally, I have found that a lot of people's experiences with, say, EQing to the Harman target, despite the predictive power of that target, supposedly, do not have a good experience. And for me personally, that is also the case. And I don't know how that's gone for you two as well, but
are they even hearing the Harman target though?
Well, that's another question.
That's the point.
Like because we don't really know what the Harman target is on the heads of humans. And that kind of brings me to the important part about this and why it's not really super easy to give an answer right now to this question, is that we actually don't know all that well how the headphones that people are buying are behaving on, let's say, an average human head. Like, we don't actually know beyond, the very limited data set from Hootubes or Hutubs. Like, that's only 2 headphones, and it's on, I think roughly, like, at most for one of the headphones, it was like 40
the new
something
YouTube
subjects, and the
alternative.
other was like 30.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
It's a new YouTube alternative called the Hutubs.
Hootubes.
Hootubes.
But it's really hard to say, okay, this is going to be better than just EQing to Harman, and here's why, when we don't have the measurements, we don't have the preference data to support it. And it would be kind of irresponsible of us to just throw out this new method at you while we're kind of in this liminal space of knowing what we don't know and having an idea of, for example, the disconnect between a few of the common rigs that we use and perhaps an average human result, because there is some, a lot of cohesion between the rigs and humans, but there are some important differences too from that
Well, and
one data
also
set
between humans
and those 2 headphones.
but also among humans as well.
Yeah.
Like it would be
Yeah, of course,
considerably wider.
of course. But that is all to say, as far as offering some sort of wisdom on how to EQ your headphones better, unfortunately, the answer is kind of still starting with a Harman adjustment. And then in the band where we know things to vary, which let's say is above 1 kilohertz, 2 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz, somewhere above there.
Well, it also depends on the headphones they have, because they could vary significantly below that too.
They can, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, if
Yeah.
anything, bass variation in situ is probably at least as large
Yeah.
for the average headphone, because the average headphone is fairly high
Yes.
acousticsy.
Correct.
I do think that there is a simple answer here, though, which is what you're angling toward, which is start with something that is vaguely Harman target shaped. Doesn't necessarily need to have the bass shelf, but have the ear gain roughly peaking around 3K, 2.7 to 3.2 or so. Have, a reasonable amount of ear gain, and then adjust to taste. You're going to almost certainly need to adjust.
And that would be
both.
with music as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I will say you can probably use something like pink noise if you're that kind of weird freak. You could probably use a noise like stimulus, and that would make you more consistent in identifying perceptually relevant variations in FR. Yeah. The reason that I don't say resonances, even though Tool says resonances and Olive says resonances, is because it makes audiophiles think that it's something in time that's separate from frequency, which it is in time, but it's
funny. I
inherently
didn't even
connected.
think about that. Well, yeah.
That's why I say peaks instead of resonances.
Sure.
Although, of course, these being min-phase systems, any peak is a resonance. But yes, but you can't get away from your own perceptions here. At the moment, at least, you do have to do things to a fairly meaningful extent by ear.
And that's a problem, because human perception is fallible.
I mean, ultimately,
blind yourself.
Ideally, we would have better in situ measurements on humans. Even then, there will still be the preference factor.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone says sitting in front of a flat player playing pink noise is your reference, and A being back and forth so you get close. I would not recommend that.
I also
That's
don't
probably better than some of the other things you could do, but I wouldn't recommend that.
I also don't recommend the manual tone gen method unless you know specific things about your how. Like I'm thinking the the Olive's Gadgets tone gen method. I tried that for a bit. It does reveal major things, but the problem is, as Oratory has pointed out as well, is that we don't have a reference point for how those tones
we don't know
should
what a
sound.
sine sweep
So
is supposed to
it
sound
doesn't like, even though you can hear the something being louder or quieter, that doesn't necessarily
equal
mean
loudness is not the goal.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that it shouldn't sound like that, and because we don't have a reference point for that. So I actually think that the pink noise is probably a better method than that.
Well, pink noise, we also don't have a reference for.
And then that's the other
pink noise.
that's the other thing I was going to say. Yeah.
Well, that's why I think Andrew started with music, because
Someone in chat says, I find spoken voices I know well to make the wrong ear gain very obvious. And that's probably it, basically.
Because you have a good reference point for that. Yeah.
Finding something that you have a very strong sense of how it should sound and adjusting until it sounds right. And you're still going to have error here. Like, that's just an inevitability. Frankly, EQ is not by any means in its infancy, but it is not a completely finished art. So it's something that we're still working on, and that improvements there are going to be a major area where audio can improve, in my view.
Yeah.
And I think a
Yeah.
lot of that's going to be about making mechanisms and UI that allow users to interface with this shit in a way that someone who's not a complete grognard can actually deal with, you know?
Because as you said earlier, the default perspective on this is still, I'm going to EQ to a target. Oh, that's how that target sounds. Cool. This is the Mark Ryan target. I'm EQing. I'm checking out the Mark Ryan target now. Oh, now I'm checking out the listener target. It's like, well, but like, we don't know that that's what you're hearing. You don't know that that's what you're hearing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough.
Okay. Mark says if EQ takes longer than 30 seconds, you're either new to it or doing it wrong. I'm not going to co-sign this take.
That is not.
It can take a long time to, because you have to go through a lot of, I mean, like, there's an argument that, like, if it takes you more than 30 seconds, then your headphone is not great. But even that,
I mean,
I think,
no, headphones by and large.
because we're talking about
not...
like the maximum personalization, right? Like the maximum.
Yeah.
That you.
Well, yeah, we want people to get the best sound quality they can possibly get, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
so, like,
I think that there's a risk of over optimizing, which is Mark's point.
Yes, but
sure.
I wouldn't.
And I think
say 30
I
seconds.
think what he's speaking to is that he's speaking to the whole. If you're like, most of the people I know in the hobby, like, spending more than 30 seconds on an EQ, are doing some weird stuff that, like, I can almost guarantee is just like them coping with something that they think is novel or interesting and sounds better, but it would actually probably not be preferred to, like, a simple Harmon-esque equalization when it comes down to it. Even by them.
Unless EQ is your hobby. Yeah.
I guess we should probably address audio nervosa.
Okay.
Which is that's one of my favorite Jason Stoddardisms. I like a lot of.
This is you.
He coined that?
Yeah, he coined audio nervosa, I believe. Him or Mike Moffat. But
you've had this, and then you've gone through it and come out the other side, and a jaded, cynical individual.
I mean, I don't think I really had it that bad, honestly. Like, because when I say that, I mean this thing of like, oh, am I having the best experience that I can? I'm actually not that much of an optimizing person for my own life. There's areas where I'll do that, and it's usually in response to a necessity. Like, the reason that I'm all into ergo stuff is because my wrist started hurting, and I really wanted that to stop.
My back is on fire. That $1,600 chair does not work for me at all. I've gone back to this broken Aeron.
Yep, I told you it wasn't good.
I'm a broken down husk of a human.
I'll take that chair, though.
Man. No, I'm going to use it for something else.
So okay. I do want to say go ahead.
What I mean about audio nervosa, though, is like, people fairly often did the whole comparison is the thief of joy thing here, but much worse than that is when you're like, hypothetically, this could be better, and that makes you enjoy it less.
Blaine is the thief of joy.
Well, and I mean, that sucks, right? Like, which is, I believe, what Mark is articulating, assuming that Mark isn't just being silly. Like, is that, if you're just trying to constantly tweak this, tweak that, you can end up in a situation where you're not actually just enjoying your fucking music.
See, I think Mark is saying that if piercing treble peak juice is not worth the squeeze, I think it is worth the squeeze if like you're locked into the headphone. If you can return it, then do that. But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I think for people who are trying to optimize, it can take longer, and there is a big distance between sounds good and sounds best, as far as like, what goes into, um, you know, the EQ adjustments that you would end up making. And it is challenging.
Yeah.
I don't think it's easy to do. Like, I think
No.
like having a set of like reference points, reference tracks, like, um, and I like that comment about, vocals, right? Because vocals is something that like we all have a general sense of what it's supposed to sound like. Um, that's that's my advice. Do it with music. Like, yeah, like there are other things that you can do, other tools, but I think doing it with music is. I mean, I would also co-sign the, like, yeah, up to a point, right? Because the audio nervosa thing is, people definitely get all up on their heads about that. You can go too far with this, but I think it's worth trying. I think it's worth
I think it's
taking the plunge.
important to advocate for the people sniffing a little bit too much, though, because these are also the people who, given enough time, tend to have way more consistent takes than most
Well, it,
reviewers.
it it in and of itself is a training exercise.
Yes, which like
Like,
should not be undersold. Like there are a ton of people who are like reading way too deeply into it, spending too much time doing it and not really getting much out of it. But a lot of the people I've met who actually do take it seriously and have, treated it as kind of a journey in and of itself,
mhm,
have come out of it on the other side knowing way more about
way
what
more.
they actually like
Yeah,
and can articulate it way better than like 99.9% of enthusiasts, including
yeah.
basically all reviewers.
Anybody
Like,
who has done that will not have some of the perspectives that people have about, like, well, but a sine tone or is not music. There's harmonic content in music.
yeah,
Any
that's
I know, but
nitpick.
like, anybody who has bothered to do what we're saying here with EQ will never have that take. Um, like, they will learn basically like how the things, basically how sound pressure level for a given band affects the music, affects what they're hearing. And that's a useful exercise.
It is. It's also a lot, like a lot. And I really can't in good conscience tell people that like they should do that without many, many asterisks attached to it.
I
But it
can
is what, yeah, I know.
do it.
But it is
Do
something
it.
that I feel like if you're gonna go down a rabbit hole, it's the least expensive and it actually has the best gains in terms of like your understanding of what you like. Um,
So,
Um,
Lacram, I have to address this. He says, I think,
Marcel. Yeah, Marcel is saying that the method Olav uses is common sense to listen to speakers and EQ and compare. This has a problem that our perception of timbre is dependent on our perception of source incidence. This is the actual original Teal argument.
yeah,
Um, the reason I don't want to condemn it because relative to a lot of other shit people can do, like that versus just nailing the response to a line on Squiglink, I think I would probably take the speaker thing, but
yeah,
neither of them is ideal,
yeah,
frankly.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think,
I mean, just have experiences, you fucking freaks.
Have fun.
yeah. But the thing is, a lot of people have experiences where, or like a lot of people's average experience is bad. Like, what do you do then? Is it just that all headphones are bad?
No, all
I
headphones are
mean,
good. Bad
all
doesn't
all
exist.
audio products are bad. It's the music
There's
that's
truth to
good.
that. There's absolutely truth to that.
No, there
But
isn't. I'm going to push back. Not all audio products are bad. This is good.
Not to me.
The
what the
headphone
heck?
that I am
No,
wearing right
but like
now is good.
that's not even what I'm saying. I'm just saying like all headphones can be bad to someone, and all headphones have their flaws
Oh
and
yeah,
compromises and all
yeah,
that
yeah. All,
stuff.
all headphones are all audio products involve compromise.
But additionally, like so the kind of person who tends to go down this rabbit hole is very often the kind of person that doesn't really have a choice. Like the kind of person who might not have the most money in the world and buys a single IEM and that's what they spent their Christmas money on or whatever. And that's just what they've got for the next however long. So they kind of have to optimize if they want things to improve at all. And, for that person, like, I don't think 30 seconds is sufficient. I don't think we should be telling them necessarily that a target will even necessarily improve it versus the stock response. Um, and I think that is the kind of person that probably should be encouraged to, go down that rabbit hole and really try to figure out for themselves via the testing we're talking about what kind of response they prefer. That way, if their economic situation doesn't improve, but they do eventually want to buy another headphone, they end up knowing what they want a little bit better.
Yeah, and also understanding how unfortunate certain aspects of the industry are.
Yeah, I mean,
You can break the spell, right? Like
ideally they don't buy another headphone. Like,
Yeah.
ideally it's comfortable enough
When
and they can EQ it good enough that it's
Yeah.
just whatever.
But it is a thing. Like, it's, I regularly, look in the mirror and ask myself what the fuck I'm doing with my life whenever I get, the next hyped headphone in, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like, what did they do? It happens. All right. Should we move on?
I think so. I think we're good to move on. Blaine, anything else?
Not much. There's argument in chat about whether or not we should be like telling people to not ruin their own enjoyment, but that's just Gollum having bad takes as usual.
Well, I mean, it's
Gollum has
part
good
of
takes,
it's part of the discussion, right? Like, I think it's
because
an element of it.
Gollum is someone who has been thoroughly ruined by us. Like, Gollum is at the stage of like measuring with blocked canal microphones and making headphones, and I don't know that they were there before we got a hold of him. So sorry about that, Gollum.
Hey, if everybody does that though, then that will it will force the industry to.
Well, yeah, because people probably just won't buy things anymore.
Exactly.
All right.
I mean, if everyone did that, then human society would collapse. Like, do you think about the amount of hours it would take for that?
Is that not a good thing? No, just kidding.
All right. Anyway,
we're headed there anyway.
News and impressions. So, as far as news, there are two notable things I've seen recently. But do you guys have anything? Or
the only one that's noteworthy to me is the new JDS with the EQ web app.
Yeah, so that is definitely on the list of things I had to talk about.
And integrating EQ profiles is the other one.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, we could talk about that. But let's talk about the JDS first.
Either of those.
So JDS, for those who are not aware, recently released the Element 4, which is their newest in the kind of Element platform of desktop DAC amp combo. Little small thing with a knob on top. Limited inputs and outputs, just a 1/4-inch headphone out on the front, and then RCA in on the back, and then I think optical in as well, and then I think USB, and then power. It's going for $500. It's JDS, so the objective performance is as typical of them, excellent for the form factor. The big change is that the knob can be had in aluminum or clear resin, and the clear resin actually looks really cool. I do think it's a little bit of an upcharge. Chat can correct me on that if I'm wrong. And the inclusion of a web app with a 10-band parametric EQ, 1 low shelf, 1 high shelf, and then 8 peaking filters for the rest of the response.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the choice to make it a web app?
I have mixed feelings.
I have no feelings.
Why is that?
Like,
we all knew that.
Oh, fair enough. So I have mixed feelings because on the one hand, it improves compatibility. Like, I don't care about people who use Unix-based OSs, but they are a meaningful population, including one of my co-hosts. That for those people, this is a meaningful improvement in the accessibility of desktop EQ. I mean, you can obviously get an EQ program for either Mac OS or for whatever Linux distro you have. But still, like, it is nice to have a convenient one. From a longevity standpoint, I'm not super confident that, like, I have mini DSP stuff that is as old as JDS Labs, and it still works. I mean, I would have to load, like, if mini DSP had gone out of business 5 years ago, I could still load their stupid, terrible UI app and configure it. Will the Element 4 still be usable in 15 years? I don't know. I think that that's kind of an abstract concern, and it's one that's mostly relative to the fact that I very seldom buy new source gear, so I have different priorities than most people.
Sure.
Like,
Will it still need you? Will it still feed you when it's 64?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
that's like the only thing that immediately sticks out to me, and I'm like, well, that, and I don't like the op amp they chose for the new outputs, but I mean, that's an extremely diva take.
It doesn't sound
Why
as
don't
Quimble to you.
that's not why. What is your qualm with it?
Well, they moved to the fucking 1692s, which I get it. I mean, everyone's doing it because the cost per milliamp is low, but just use the fucking OPA 1620. It was literally made as a headphone driver. Like, it's just sort of annoying to me that we keep seeing more and more paralleled, not designed for headphone output drivers instead of just using TI's actual fucking headphone driver IC. And I do think a lot of it is just the quest for fucking, price to power. But
Yes.
I just, that's a very small complaint. Although technically it would slightly improve the performance, assuming that the gain stage was low enough distortion. But it doesn't really matter. The DAC will be the worst part anyway.
So people in chat are saying that the web app can actually run locally. And yes, I was going to bring that up. It's based on React, which I think is something that can be used to make web apps as well as ported into another system that would work as like a native app for your OS.
This all sounds like something
that is cool of John.
Yeah.
This sounds like something that I would never personally have a use for, but I would regularly recommend to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So like, when it comes to like source gear that has EQ in it, it's a fairly recent thing outside of like the RME ADI2, which has been around for a little bit and had that kind of 5-band EQ. But now I think a few pieces of topping gear have it.
Topping's new DACs have their version of this. Apparently FIO is bringing this out as well.
FIO's had a few things with PEQ for a while, but the limitations are different with each piece of hardware, which is a bit of a bummer, but
kind of inevitable. But
yeah, of course. But even so,
I'm actually quite happy that like PEQ is becoming so ubiquitous, because frankly EQ APO sucks. Like, I'm sorry to whoever it is that develops EQ APO, but I've never had a buggier piece of software on my computer.
It's pretty buggy. I will grant that. I will raise you. It's nowhere near as buggy as Adobe products.
I don't really have that many Adobe products, to be honest.
Like, I'm sorry. Though. I don't have issues with piece crashing or EQ APO, bugging out on me. I have issues with Premiere crashing every time I use it. It's yeah. So like on the in the grand scheme of things, it's fine. It's not ideal. It's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think as far as
chat also said that the sorry I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Someone in chat said that the JDS thing will take imports from Squiglink EQ outputs or whatever, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, that's convenient. So my current software Sound Source has you can just import a text file. So they have integration with the auto EQ database already. But since Squiglink, you could just export the the filter values as a text file and just drop it in there. It's already about as easy as it could get, which makes my life very easy. But when it comes to like a piece of source gear like this, I feel like my bar is probably very different than a lot of the people shopping for source gear, but kind of in a way that I feel makes the most sense for like a normal person and not like a source gear sniffer. Like I think a piece of source gear on a desk should look good, and I think that's probably like the primary thing. Like I wouldn't recommend like
Oh
a
no,
Rebel amp
it's
or
you need
something
it.
just
You
because
need it
it
for the
looks it.
Quimble. The whole point is for the Quimble.
Yeah, just because of your strong views on Ukrainians.
Oh my God, shut up. No. No, just because it's kind of big and like it's very bright green, and if that's not your color, it might look a little weird. But like I would always recommend the Fireflies to someone based on how it looks. Or
Oh
in
no,
this
but
case,
that's for the Quimble.
but the Element 4 looks good, is what I'm trying to say. And it doesn't take up a ton of room on the desk. And it looks like the kind of thing where it would kind of, when you're not looking at it, would kind of disappear from view, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
it would be
I
pretty.
like the big knob.
Yeah, I know you're all about
Big
big
knob
knob.
is very nice. We like
Let's.
that.
No, I was just gonna say I have nothing else to like. This seems like a win of a product.
Yeah.
If it's well
Yeah.
executed, I have nothing else really.
I'm sure
see.
it'll be well executed.
Yeah.
But
JDS
then what
does
was
good
the other
stuff,
thing we were
so.
going to talk about?
Oh, the Rune integrating. Like, I can't remember the
Yes.
acronym for the thing.
Oh yeah, Rune
Opera?
Rune Constantine.
Yeah, that's right. Which is cool. I don't use Rune right now, unfortunately. It's only because
Give us free Rune lifetime memberships, Rune. Then we'll start shilling you like other
show it.
people
Yeah,
do.
because
Yeah.
no, like I mean,
I mean, Rune is owned by Harman right now.
it
Maybe
is.
we
Oh,
could
hey,
talk
maybe
to
we
Sean.
should. Yeah. No, but like that's the only reason I don't use Rune is because it's expensive. I like
Yeah,
their,
I mean that's
they
the
have
reason I don't use
good
it.
EQ functionality. It's
Rune
a
is
good
killer.
interface.
Like
Yeah, I like.
there's no downsides to Rune really
Well,
that I could think of
other than
other than the
cost.
price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I don't need that to enjoy my music. That is
Right.
It's a bit like the JDS Element 4, where it's like it's a nice thing. I would recommend it to people, but I don't need that in my life.
Yeah. But so for those who aren't aware, Opera is basically Rune has integrated a database of presets for what essentially just seems like EQ to Harman for a very large body of headphones. And
Yeah.
it seems like our friend and yours, Oratory 1990, has been a large contributor to this project in terms of the presets that Rune is using. Now, I think they're also getting stuff from the auto EQ database, but I'm not sure because I haven't actually used it, like what the structure for all of that is like. It does seem kind of like auto EQ, where it's just like a searchable database. And there's like a little bit of like a hierarchy of data where like there's a bunch of different people's measurement of the headphone, and you could choose one and it'll EQ based on that measurement. So like Crin's data, I think, is in there too, because
Cool.
it's in the auto EQ database.
We should get our data in there.
If you want to.
We should get the HPTF variation data in there. But like I was gonna say, I like, so like there's a risk that something like this would actually contribute to additional confusion on some of the stuff, like what is the Harman target, what does the Harman target actually sound like, etc. Right, like that. But it does give me confidence that one Constantine's stuff is in there, given how
Constantine's
developed.
stuff is not auto, it's manual.
That's what I'm saying, and I think that is nice, especially because it does help with a lot of. We've had this debate before about like even though getting things to the Harman target is not going to be perfect for the individual, not ideal, it's still better than like many things that are out there. Like it's putting things towards a reasonable starting point, and to me that just seems like a benefit to anybody who uses that platform. But I would still caution people, about like, okay, like this is not what you're hearing here is meant to be like an improvement to the sound quality, and is likely to be an improvement to the sound quality for many products, but it is not necessarily indicative of, this is what the Harman target sounds like. And or whatever else, right? Like whatever other
Yeah,
targets.
and like thankfully, I don't think Rune is really marketing it based on Harman adherence. Like obviously, Rune is owned by Harman, but I don't think they're. I think they're just kind of marketing it as like this is like audiophile
Yeah,
sound
it's
or something
it
like that.
actually is it's a path for people who are using that platform to go to the deeper end of the wedge or the fatter end of the wedge, right? And that
Yeah,
to
because
me
a
is
lot of
great.
people using Rune aren't the EQ sniffers or
That's
the
right.
Harman literature
The
readers or
Harmen.
anything like that. They are not the
Yeah.
yes, they're not the little boys in the Harman village. They're by and large like people who are taking advantage of the fact that it allows you to do interesting things with source gear connections, you know. Um,
Indeed.
but giving them a quick like one-click solution to like at least try some of that Harman stuff, I don't know, could lead to a good experience. I think it's a good thing. I feel like there was something else that Blaine brought up for us to talk about.
There was.
I don't need to.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, it wasn't epistemology related, presumably.
Well, we could talk about how
Mm.
the proposed ternary structure of knowledge statements.
Oh God, no. Okay, Andrew, just talk about your impressions.
No, I mean, like one of the core aspects of the ternary structure of knowledge statements is an implied
No,
component.
we're not doing this. Stop.
tell you
I'm
one of
just
my
going to
impressions.
interrupt you. No, that's
Your
not
impressions of headphones.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. So the majestic one I have with me is the
Is that
Sundara
Sundara closed?
closed. Yes.
Does
not
it
the
also
cable.
suck?
This is the one that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they meant also as in like Audavina.
This is
Yeah.
Audavina like in its overall.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I can see that. Just let me know when you want me to show people the FR.
Go ahead.
Don't
Well,
blame me.
the FR is not complete. This is a work in progress FR because this is preliminary. I just got started measuring it.
Oh,
There's not enough seatings. So I
well,
don't know
give
if you
your
want to show
impressions
it.
first, and then I'll show the FR.
Okay. It's the kind of sound that initially some of the mid-range jumps out and you go, okay, there's some mid-range there. That's fun. And then almost like half a second after having a moment of enjoyment of it, this absolute absurdity of a peak in the treble. I want to say this is like a 20 dB peak at 9
Jesus.
kilohertz. It's like a 9.5. I don't know exactly where it is on my head because I've only been listening to it for a little bit, but it is the most horrific peak that I've come across in a very long time, making it totally unlistenable. Now, there are other things to talk about with this headphone beyond its sound quality or lack thereof. I'm a big fan of the original Sundara, as people know. This is a known thing. But it's clampy, this one. Not very comfortable. And I don't know if it's more clampy than the original Sundara, but it feels like it. It could be because there's a little bit of extra weight now from the cups. The cups aren't that heavy. It's not like an overly heavy headphone, but it could be a bit heavier. That's maybe why I notice it more. But yeah, my goodness, is it ever ergonomically not good? No cup swivel. It's the same kind of rigid structure. And you put it on, it's like squeezing your head. And then okay, I can forgive certain aspects of it, but the treble is unforgivable in this one. And the crazy thing to me about this is these guys make headphones that sound great. I don't understand how they can come out with something like this. Like they have to know that this does not sound good, because it's that absurd. Griffin, you seem to disagree. That they know.
Counterpoint.
Okay.
I think you just don't know how to have fun.
That's what I was saying earlier, where it's like, hey, if we can
Okay,
if we
hold on.
can take
I'm going to
give
show
the
the
Ares
FR to
a pass
people.
because it's fun, right? We could give anything that's got a horrible frequency response a pass because it's fun. This is distinctly unfun to me, and I do not enjoy it. Oh, have you ruined?
Yeah, there's the FR for the people who want to I want to see. So that target is the diffuse field tabulated transfer function of
Function.
the. I mean, let's be clear. That's some function right now, but yeah, it's the DFHRTF of the 5128 with the Harman 2018 adjustments applied to it.
Yeah. I've
Woof.
used
I
20.
like the mids.
I was just saying,
Why
like,
are
you
the
listen to it,
mids
you're like,
going ooh woo at me?
Yes,
I
those are
hear,
some
I can
W
hear,
mids, right, chat?
yeah, I could hear some piano tones, and I was like, oh yeah, it's got the mid range, you know. And then I was listening a bit more, and like almost immediately after that, I was like, wow, this has some crazy treble resonance. It got to a quiet part in the song where there's no piano playing, there's no drums, no nothing, and the room
You just
has
hear
a
hiss.
I
Yeah.
hear hiss in the room or whatever. It's just like, what the hell?
Hell yeah.
So yeah, this is truly horrific. I saw some commentary on Reddit about, you know, how someone's saying, no, it's actually okay, like it's not the best, but you know, it's got the same Sundara driver, and so it's okay. And it's at a good price, right? And it does sell. This is a popular model for some reason.
Probably because they use the name Sundara in it.
Yeah. But man, I sure hope they don't think this is what a regular Sundara sounds like. Because a regular Sundara sounds good, and this does not. I think so. My original plan with this was to mod it in some way, to see if I could, you know, like I was thinking, like, how can we improve the Sundara close? How can we modify it? We take the cups off, but now because it's so unergonomic, I just want to make an EQ profile and put that on the forum for people who have this headphone to try, so that they can, you know, enjoy it more. That's my goal now.
Okay.
And I have nothing really else to say about this. I mean, like, subjectively, yes, it is detailed. It has the soundstage. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean, right? Like, it has audiophile qualities that people
Yeah, it
like.
has a
It's
sense of
got
contrast
it has
between areas of the
texture.
spatial
I
presentation.
I can hear very good image distinctness, you know, which suggests that channel matching is probably pretty good. You know, when there's a pan going across the front, I can hear very clearly the plucked notes of the string, the plucked aspects, the textural qualities. Yeah, I can hear all of that. And I can also hear a murderous treble mountain looming large with this headphone, and I don't like
I am the walrus says F for tuning, S for technicalities, overall score of B.
it. Accurate. That's exactly what it is. No, I'm like, I don't
Honestly,
know. Like,
that is such a good shit post and kind of like a really good example of why that kind of ranking just doesn't make sense at all.
yeah.
It's
So,
really
you know, and you say, well, for the wideband, it has bass extension and it has treble extension, certainly treble extension. Good lord. You know, if I really like try and maybe if I smooth it, no, even if I smooth it to 1/2 octave, it's still not great. So yeah, I'm just gonna make an EQ profile for it and see if I can get it to sound good that way, and then post that on the forum. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned to the forum. But I don't think I'm gonna mod it unless I destroy it and take the cups off.
that's fine, Andrew. I don't think
It's just
I
so
don't think anyone
unergonomic.
needs that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any impressions of new stuff. I'm waiting on a few things to come in currently.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of been.
Me too, actually. I'm
Yeah.
apparently the folks from Bayer Dynamic are sending me some of their ANC headphones, and their TWS, which I'm excited for.
Oh,
And
the event though?
yeah, I think so. Big shout outs to Rob for lending me some of his headphones to test. Those are the ANC ones. So I will have. I just picked it up. I will have. Yesterday, I will have impressions or a review of the Dolly IO12 and the B&O H100. But I'm saving that for the video.
Cool. Shouts out to Rob. We love Rob.
Yeah, big shouts
Yeah.
Blaine, no impressions?
I have not heard anything new since last week.
Okay.
I mean, like, people aren't sending me things on a regular basis.
I wonder why. Well,
every time I
okay.
send a headphone to you, it ends up in pieces, Blaine. What the hell?
I mean, like, well, I was having this argument on Headphone where people are like, "You're clearly biased because you didn't review this product, but you made a video on this other product, and it's a competitor." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't have the product. Like, they're not just sending me anything. Like, I'm not on the radar of all these companies as like an approved reviewer necessarily." And in fact, for some of them, we're probably, I wouldn't say
Not.
blacklisted, but probably not the preferred reviewers. So anyways,
someone in chat just said that the Sundara sounds like a Husqvarna parentheses EQ joke. We have a Husqvarna dealership like 5 minutes from my house.
They said
Husqvarna?
Isvarna sounds like a Husqvarna.
Yeah. Oh, the Husqvarna.
Yeah. I don't even know what a Husqvarna is.
See, that's that's why
also
you made
other
that
power
joke
tools.
about how much you prefer the Husqvarna over steel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also
it's because you have one near you.
I mean, we also have a steel dealership. Like, this is Washington. It's logging territory. Every town I've ever lived in has had Husqvarna and steel dealers.
Yeah, same. They're everywhere here. Makes sense. Okay.
Well, I mean, it was logging country until the spotted owls came.
Oh, owls are cool, man. I was just doing an animal tier list with my girlfriend last night.
What's fun?
An animal tier list.
Yeah, and in the top, an owl was in the top 5, because it's a really cool.
Oh wait, there's a really
owl is not a top 5.
Owl's top 5. I go. So actually, mine. Oh, I can't remember if mine included it. I think hers did, but I was like, that's a really good pick. But my top 5 is not in any particular order. It's penguins, elephants, bears, dogs, and horses. Those are my top 5. So owls weren't in my top 5, but they would be like number 6 because they're pretty cool.
All right, so
I'm looking for this picture that Taryn made of you photoshopped onto an owl.
Owls are not top 5, and I've posted the reason that owls are not top 5.
That picture. No, that picture, Griffin, reminds me of...
It's cursed. It's so bad.
It's so cursed, and it reminds me of what I saw at Dr. Craig Stark's MRI of your face, your skull with your face cut off. That's what that picture reminds me of. It's horrific.
Oh yeah. Whoa. Why are the legs so long?
Yeah, no, owls are fucked up.
Wait, where did you post this?
Live stream planning.
Yeah, they're so cool. They're so cool. That's a great horn, right? Yeah, that's a great horn.
Yes.
That
man has secrets. I don't trust that.
We had a lot of great horn owls where I lived growing up, but we also had burrowing owls. And that I worked at a company named after them. It was a winery, but they're super cool because they're really tiny and super adorable. And you'd see them in the wild. You just go for a walk.
Owls are cute.
Developing kind of a pain in the ass.
What's that? Oh, like because they burrow under things.
Well, I think that they're protected in Washington.
Yeah, they're protected here too. Oh, you mean that's why it's a pain in the ass? I see.
Yeah, it's like mountain marmots or whatever.
Yeah, but they're so cool. Anyway,
should we move on?
Let's do music.
I don't think there's any more news.
There's music. Yeah. I have been listening to a new album nonstop since not nonstop, but a new album yesterday. It is the new Opeth album, The Last Will and Testament, and I have some thoughts.
What are your thoughts?
So they don't release albums often. They just have been around forever. The last album was in 2019, and then before that
Wow.
2016. So like they have gaps.
They take their time.
They take their time. And I've been looking forward to this one. This one, I have mixed feelings because the music itself on this album. So for anybody who doesn't know this band, it's kind of like a prog band that has like metal elements. I don't know how, like, it used to be more of a metal band.
No,
now it's
that's a
prog
fair
band,
description.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the Growls are back, which for a lot of the fans of the older stuff are like, oh yay, they're back. But the thing is, they're not, because the actual writing style is not what it was from like the Watershed era and the Ghost Reveries era. It's very different. It's very much taken in some of the things that they've learned from, moving to this more proggy era. It's just that the Growls are back. And in my opinion, the Growls would never make or break. Like, Michael's got a clean singing voice. It doesn't need the Growls to be good. The Growls are fine, but that's not what made the old stuff, great, in my opinion. And the other side of it too is, like, you can definitely tell that in the songwriting, well, both in the songwriting and in the musicianship, they have, improved over the years. They've gotten better. They've gotten tighter and more, like,
I mean, that's good to
refined.
hear.
Yeah. However, there are some choices with this album that I do not like. One is that the overall album feels like they're just trying to do way too much. Like, it's like everything is packed so densely into this album. All their ideas, it's like all at once, everything all at once. And there was a meme on the.
I watched that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. But no, there was a meme about, when this album came out, there's a meme about, like, a guy being like, I don't know there's so much music in this music. I think that's appropriate. There's just so much music in this music. So it's very difficult to digest. That's one consequence. There's nothing that is like a simple, catchy hook riff that's iconic and memorable from any of this. There's a lot of really great moments and a lot of really great transitions and really clever layering and writing for some of the chord progressions that they've done, but none of it redounds to, like, these sort of iconic motifs that this band is known for in the past. So that's what I'm saying. In many ways, they've taken that progressive element and really dialed the volume up on it. And I would say this is probably their most progressive album in that sense.
So would you say it's a little bit too wanky then?
No, I wouldn't say that's really wanky at all. I think it's actually much more grounded than wanky. Yeah, I think actually some of their stuff in Sorceress got a bit more on the wanky side. This is more like, dark and grounded and stressful. It's basically like Opeth with musical anxiety, and kind of unsettling in a way. And that sounds all bad, but there are very good moments that come from this. But my big criticism, I have two big criticisms. One is, there is really nothing that you can sort of attach your mental focus to over time as this big iconic moment that you're like, oh yeah, that song has this killer thing about it. And I'm just like, yeah, because of the way that it's kind of laid out, it's just this more kind of like sporadic music splatter that has good elements, but it's a chaos of music, right? The other criticism is that the production is good for so much of it, really good for so much of it, but however they've recorded some of the cymbals and certain elements, it's clear that the Circle of Confusion was at work here, because nobody would choose to produce it that way, to make it sound like that. Like, whatever playback equipment they had when they were working on that, I don't know which stage of the process this is at, but whatever playback equipment they were using had to have had meaningful colorations, because nothing I listened to this on has those percussive tones sound normal. Like, so the snare drums and the bass drums sound amazing, and some of the cymbals sound great too. But I'm talking about, like, there are certain I think actually, like, one of the ride cymbals is totally fucked sounding. One of the smaller crash cymbals as well is completely just so wrong for what that's supposed to sound like. You, as a drummer, you kind of know what the different basically the different cymbals.
Did they do the hi-hat pan to the left or the right?
Gosh, off the top of my head, I cannot remember. I'll have to double check that.
Fake drummer.
Yeah, fake drummer, exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, there's so much you'll understand if you listen to this. Like, there's so much
Yeah.
chaos going on. It's difficult to really pin that down or like
Sure.
remember it. But and any of those other sort of like accented percussive tones get kind of messy.
Mm.
And they're sharp and they're also uneven. It sounds like when there's an imbalance where it's not just that there's a peak, there's like a dip and then a peak, or like a peak and then a
Yep.
dip. It
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
like that.
Mm.
And
So it
so
sounds
there's
like an AirPod Max.
it sounds compressed and fatiguing at the same time,
Yeah.
and it's just like this, and it it makes it so that like I'd have to have like a specific EQ just for this album, which is really
Mm.
frustrating to listen to. The HD, I at first I was like, it was so noticeable to me. I was like, do I have like the wrong EQ on for my headphones or something? No,
Damn.
okay. Then I was like, okay, am I listening to the wrong headphones? Like, is there an issue with the headphones that? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to switch to the HD 600. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna. I listened to it on the Kefs. I listened to it on like as many of the headphones. I listened to it on the 490 Pro. Um, at that, there is something in the actual production itself that is this annoying as shit thing to listen to. So yeah, that's that's a disappointment for me. But I think a lot of people, like, as far as the rest of the production is concerned, it's quite good. Um,
Okay.
so it's just there's things to like, but there are things that I'm frustrated by, and I wish I could just have it be produced like their old stuff, and then I could just sit and listen to the music and focus on that, and not have to be like triggered by the weird fucking treble imbalances.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but anyways, I would say that for me right now, this is not in their top 5 albums. I would say it's in the lower portions, but I do think
Okay.
that there's a lot to like here for people who are fans of that band.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. Blaine?
I haven't really been listening to that much new shit.
Mm.
Like this week I was just kind of playing my liked playlist mostly. That said, I did so I'm just looking at stuff I added. Added a couple of singles. One of them's called Meteor by a band called Top House. It's some kind of indie shit, to be honest. I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but it's not the most embarrassing thing I've
Why
said I
is
listened to on
that what
here.
you're embarrassed to say? Of all the things you've talked about, you said indie is embarrassing?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
I heard a song that I actually quite liked, which was The Phantom Sea by Sail North, and then went to the album and was disappointed to find out that it's just a single and that the guy doesn't actually do
I hate
albums.
that.
He's just one of these modern meme musicians.
I
Yeah,
hate that so much.
yeah.
Yeah, I really want albums to come back. I hate this thing where people just release everything as a single and I don't get to have like, hey, I really liked how that sounded. Let's hear some more like that sort of shit, you know?
Or like
Yeah.
the
Albums are tough.
the single is the only good thing on the album.
Very common. Very, very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
And other than
writing
that, I've
one
been
good
listening.
song is tough.
True.
Yeah.
Apparently writing a bunch of good songs is tougher.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Who would have thought?
Griffin.
Other than that-
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, listening to a bunch of... Basically, I've been listening to all of Stan Rogers' albums, like, in order. And Northwest Passage is probably his best album, I think. Unpopular take, but... I actually really like Kennel Road and Night Guard, even though they're fucking country-ass songs, which is weird from a newfie. Yeah.
Yes, I am also in the mirrorless hobby. I'm sorry, Blaine is the only one who knows how to pronounce your name.
Sabine?
Watashi Kini Narimasu.
Yeah.
Oh.
Watashi Kini Narimasu, is that correct?
Okay, someone clip that, and whenever Resolve denies being a weeb in the future, you can just
Damn
use
it.
that.
Damn it.
Thanks, Chad.
All right. Griffin, yeah,
Howdy,
you're-
bud.
And why is it Imaginal Disc?
No. I've been listening to a bunch of stuff. So firstly, Kendrick Lamar released an album with no marketing or lead up to it. It was okay. I listened to it once yesterday with friends in a kind of group listening session, and it was kind of mid. There were a few standout tracks that I did quite like, but it wasn't really about Kendrick. There's one song, Man at the Garden, which has a very kind of open, plaintive ambient electronic backing to it. It's very simple, very skeletal, and I like that. I feel like it complements the kind of Kendrick's one of those rappers that takes himself very seriously, I think, for the most part. Like, obviously he gets silly sometimes, but and I feel like it worked really well when he was doing that. But it was one of those moments where, like, I kind of just wish there weren't any vocals on it at all. It was just like very clearly a very good ambient beat track that I would have been totally fine just listening to. And the vocals kind of, even though it worked well tonally, there was still a little bit of dissonance that wasn't cohering with what I wanted. The song after that, Hey Now, has absolutely disgusting bass. And frankly, when it comes to like modern hip hop, that's what I want. Like, I want the bass to be uncomfortable and like unhealthy. And like I said about the Empire Ears Evo, make me want to take a shower. And Hey Now does that. So I really enjoyed that song. I really enjoyed TV Off, which is similar, produced I think by the same guy, Mustard. And I found in general Mustard's contributions to this album to kind of be my favorites because they were kind of that like caveman bass. Yes, good. So I like that, but overall,
I mean,
wouldn't
people who
say I
like fun.
Yeah. I mean, bass is fun. Hip hop is fun. But yeah, there were a lot of tracks on this that I just like didn't really vibe with. And I don't know if it's like Kendrick's vocal styling is kind of just falling out of favor with me. I do think that is kind of part of what's happening. But yeah, I don't know. There were just like some bangers, fewer than I would like, and the tone of the record isn't as consistent as I would like, but it was fine. Another thing is Doug showed me this artist last night called Spill Tab, and I listened to basically everything they make because it's not that much for like hours last night. I stayed up way too late last night just listening to this band. I will draw attention to one song called Window. I'll type this one in chat. This song fucks. So it's like an indie pop song with just like a bunch of fun textures and digital recording tricks, and it's punctuated by a lot of just interesting sounds and motifs that aren't necessarily melodic or rhythmic. It's more so just textural. But yeah, a lot of fun. That was the first song Doug showed me, and I was like immediately hooked. The bass was really prominent, like the instrument, not like the frequency band. It was just a fun listen, and everything they did was pretty good. So I would recommend them kind of as an artist because they don't have much music right now. But yeah, would recommend them. And then the last thing is I rediscovered a record I really used to love, like back when I was still like playing in bands, and I think right when I had moved out of my hometown into New York City, I was really into this record. It's called Deserve by Weed. And this is I would call it like a mix of like shoegaze and punk. It sounds terrible. So for any of you who are like, I only listen to music if it's mixed perfectly, probably not one for you. But if you're the kind to enjoy punk music or shoegaze music where, you know, there's a little bit of grime kind of everywhere.
It's Shugazi.
Shoegaze. Lost my train of thought. The record's really good. Like it's one of those records that I've listened to like front to back like so many times. I never really listened to it one song and then stop. I basically always just listen to the full record because whole record's a vibe. Love the album art, love the band name, but yeah, if you want a punk record, that's one I would recommend right now. Is more than 10 years old, but it holds up for sure. And that's basically it.
Bueno.
Yeah. What do you guys want to do now? What we have left is the Subjectivist Challenge and Spicy Hour.
I'm
brief
telling you,
3 hours
people,
in, I
we've
think.
got to let the well fucking replenish. Spicy hour is tapped out.
I don't know.
Well, we need to speak to a bigger audience because we need to bring in more people who have spicy takes because we've already roasted all of our existing audience for their
I mean,
spicy takes.
what I'm gonna say is that you guys should still just put spicy stuff in chat. Like,
Yeah.
start now. If we
I-
see
I-
anything that's worth addressing, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. And we can do. Do you guys want to do the subjectivist challenge while we're doing that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because I forgot we started at 9 today, so we've already been 3 hours.
Mhm.
If
Yeah,
my
we're like
mental math is
right at
correct.
the 3 hour mark right now, I think.
Sony is
correct.
better than Sennheiser in 2024. It depends if you're talking about Sennheiser Pro or if you're talking about Sennheiser Consumer.
But the thing is, so MDR MV1 versus HD 490 Pro is
Good
actually
point.
a pretty.
Wait, no,
it's a
that's
pretty
not 2024, is it?
Oh, in 2024? No, it's not. But
So
that's
no.
still a headphone that is currently available.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Thus making that a bad take.
No, making that an acceptable take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Jalapenos
actually
aren't spicy. Yeah.
Jalapenos.
What?
Jalapenos.
That's not that word.
Jalapenos. What do you call
Although
it?
he didn't put the tilde over the N, so maybe it is that word.
It's actually pronounced jalapenos.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's Greek.
Okay.
So
do you guys?
subjectivism.
Yeah.
We go to the island of Jalapenos, full of jalapis.
Anyway, do you guys have a headphone? Does anyone want to suggest me a headphone on Discord? If you want to DM me or ping me or whatever.
I'm trying to think of ones that I haven't done.
Yeah, same.
Okay. So this is a headphone that's actually a very popular, and it's a popular headphone, and it's commonly found in many places, not just in the audiophile niche subculture weird.
Bear Dynamic DT990.
No, it is a headphone that
770.
has a lot of bass, prominent bass. One might say it is woolly, a bit bloated, a bit boomy. The soundstage is pretty good. It's a closed back headphone.
Apple AirPods Max.
Phone call from Amazon delivery. Probably should get that, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, get it.
No, take it. We'll
Get it,
continue
get
this. I'll do a new bit. We don't want him to miss his delivery, chat.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Man. All right. I got one. So
Okay.
this is a very warm tinged headphone, I would say. It's honestly, it's kind of a cushy sound, although there can be just a tad bit of harshness to it at times. It's a headphone that I was not expecting to buy, but I actually ended up buying it twice because someone else liked it so much that I gave them mine.
Oh.
It's I think that if it wasn't for a couple of key mechanical flaws, this would probably be one of the better headphones for its intended use case, frankly. I've stolen your bit. I'm now doing a headphone that is warm, maybe a little fatiguing occasionally, but generally not, and which I have bought twice because I gave someone one of mine.
Isn't this the
Rode
Fidelio
NTH100?
X2?
Yeah, it's the NTH100.
Oh.
I was surprised you even bought that headphone. I actually feel like us discussing that headphone was one of the first time you and I actually talked about measurements.
Yeah. I mean, from a sound quality standpoint, I don't think it's the best, but it sounds good enough.
You take the foam off the front, right?
Yes.
And Griffin doesn't. Griffin adds foam.
Jesus.
Adds foam? Are you mad? That thing is already at my limit for warmth.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so it's a roll off.
It is ergonomic.
Yeah, no.
Though.
I just add 400 hertz. That's what I do with the
yeah.
I just add 400 hertz, 10 decibels.
Yeah. Should I go back to mine?
Yeah.
So where was I? I was saying it has a boomier bass profile. It is known outside of the audiophile sphere but it also is recognized quite well from a prominent audiophile brand. The soundstage is pretty enveloping. One might say the layering is good. The treble is a little bit on the blunted side, a little bit on the
What the
I don't know,
fuck is this?
say it's a little bit unrefined. Is strident the right word for this one? Maybe not strident in the. No, I'm not going to say strident. It's just unrefined overall. Um, the mid range, the mid range is obscured by its bass profile. It is a headphone that was actually recommended and lauded by a number of old school reviewers because it's been around for a long time. However, if I say the next thing, it's going to give it away.
Is it a Shure?
No.
What the fuck is this thing?
It is a headphone that is visually quite striking, very distinct looking, and very recognizable.
It's old. It's visually distinct. Is it a T50?
Nope. It's not that old generally, but it's older in comparison to a lot of the modern things.
What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Someone in chat says 99 Classics.
That's what it is.
Ugh. It's old. Old?
I said not that old. Older.
Fairly old.
I was going to say this one. I was going to mention how it was the low anchor. But that would have given it away.
Oh, yeah, that absolutely would have given it away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's actually the reason I bring it up is it's one that I have on my list of headphones to modify.
Wait, is that Juanita from the fucking CanJam booth?
No, I've had one here.
No. Fucking, she's the person who guessed 99 Classics is Juanita, and we had someone named Juanita who was at our CanJam booth for a long time.
What's
It was
up,
cool.
Juanita? Yeah, Juanita was a good time. She spent a lot of time at the booth, and I think of all the people I saw at the show, was the most fastidious about her impressions. Like, was writing everything down, and when you asked, she had a very concise list of things and thoughts about that headphone. And she ended up
Her and Kyle, pretty much.
Yeah, but she ended up doing like a big Headfi post of all her impressions, and like there was a ton there, and I think it actually got front paged. So congrats, Juanita, for that.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it is her. Okay, cool. Okay, my turn. Okay, so this is a headphone that I would say leans slightly warm, but isn't really a cozy listen, is kind of a bit boxy and obviously colored. And the treble has this kind of rough, ringy characteristic that I've personally never found sounded right on anything, while at the same time not really sounding like it's boosted hugely or anything like that. It's just a very strange sounding treble response that seems like it's almost littered with very narrow dips and peaks in quick succession. The
GT
comfort
1772.
No. The comfort is bad. I don't like the fact that even though the cups are ear-shaped, there wasn't enough consideration given to how the thing actually sits against your temples and cheeks. It's a little clampy.
Okay, this is an Eon.
This is an Abyss Diana.
No.
Nighthawk?
No. So I will say, in terms of its subjective performance, I think as well as the... What's up?
Open or closed?
Closed.
Okay.
Closed.
I would say this is one of the times when I agree with the community that this is not a very technical headphone. In terms of its dynamics... No. In terms of its dynamics, I would say it is actually very soft, pillowy, kind of hollow. There's no real snappiness to the presentation. It's a very kind of sedated, laid back kind of vibe.
It's not the fucking Isvarna, is it?
No,
That's not that ear shaped.
no. This is a very ear shaped.
Ear shaped.
What the
Yeah.
fuck is this?
Oh! Is this the Aura headphone?
No. I feel like you guys are going like way off the reservation when it's actually like very easy.
Okay.
But it's a
And it's a
headphone
closed
that
toe.
I found, yes.
And you find it warm.
Yes.
What-
Warm, but with
Warm
ringy kind of
and
gross treble
So
and
night owl.
ear shaped.
and ear shaped.
So night owl.
No. So I would say one of the things that people did kind of have a positive experience with sometimes was soundstage, but I didn't really get that. I got, because of the relaxed presentation, I got that it wasn't very in my face or anything like that, but it was kind of on the level of like a Sennheiser 5 series headphone in that regard,
I feel like
where it
I'm
was
taking crazy pills, man. I can't even think of another closed ear shape.
Ultrasound.
no.
Those aren't ear
I'm
shaped.
surprised.
I
I'm
don't-
surprised you guys haven't gotten it yet.
Ear shaped? The headphone itself.
Yeah, like
You mean, like,
ovoid, you know, like it's
they're not-
it's
a
meant
closed back.
to go on a human ear.
so it's not like a one where the cup itself is circular, where the pad is ovoid.
The cup itself
Like,
is
the cup
ovoid.
itself is
The ear
ovoid.
pad itself is the same shape as the cup.
Okay. And
Is
you find it
is it just an
undetailed.
oval or is it the ear
Just an
shape
oval.
thing with the just an oval? Okay, that makes me much less. Well, now I'm still confused. Fuck, I don't
In
know.
terms of
like-
its timbre, I found it a little bit too glassy, and again, I think this was mostly defined by the treble, just a little bit too slick for me. It was just a
and this is
little.
not an Eon?
No.
It's not a Meze lyric.
No.
2.
and
No.
it's not a stealth, obviously. It's just an oval.
E3.
No. In terms of its detail, I
It's
would
not an
say
oval.
it is a little bit
Someone said
aliased and
HD
smeared sounding.
620.
Oh, 620S. Yeah.
Yes, that is the answer. I cannot
Ah.
believe how long it took you guys
That's
to get that. But
it-
Well, you
that's
said
a headphone?
ear shaped.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's
Ear-shaped
reasonably
kind of-
ear shaped.
When I think ear shaped, I think the ones that have the weird one blunted side, so that it actually looks
Oh,
like
so
an ear.
you were doing D shaped instead of like
Yeah.
ovoid.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Sorry about that.
620S is one that I just sort of forgot that existed.
Yeah, for sure.
good.
Like, I had issues with it, but then I know there are people who had none of those issues with it. Like, and then some people were like Cameron, who had even more issues with it. Yeah,
I don't like that headphone.
I
Like,
just
it's
don't like
fine.
the way.
I think
I've
it's
never heard the
actually
headphone.
probably one of Sennheiser's better closed backs, but
That's true. I don't like the way
Low
it couples.
bar.
It's like it's got the 560S kind of thingy here, right?
I hate that headband, and I hate the fact that the yoke protrudes into the cup, which forces that little block in the ear
nubbin
cup that
thing.
hits against
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
All right, I got one.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
you
go
guys
for
have both heard this. So this headphone was pretty heavily hyped up when it launched. It's got a very forward
Headphone
sound,
One.
I would say. No. No, it's not a headphone one. It's not a headphone at all. You know what I mean. It's not an HEDD phone.
Oh, okay.
No,
It
it's
lanes into IEMs now. Wow.
no. It has a. Honestly, I find the character of this headphone quite nasal. To be frank, it's a headphone that I've had people tell me it sounded bright. They're wrong. The treble is actually, in my opinion, really quite a bit too little, but it has this overbearing nasalness to it, which I think a lot of people perceive to be bright.
Audio Technica, one of the Woodies.
No. So this is a headphone that I actually think it's okay looking. I wasn't the biggest fan of its looks, but I know a lot of people liked it. I think it matches well with the series that it's in. From a build standpoint, I always go back and forth on it because it's like it's very premium, but I don't really feel like it's either comfortable or well constructed. So it just sort of feels like it was built with pretense of being premium. The
Mm.
bass for me was truly lacking. I think that for some people, sometimes it can have acceptable bass,
Sorry,
although I've
is
never
this
heard
open or
anyone say
closed?
it has. This is a closed headphone.
Lyric.
Some people can say it has no. Some people have said that it has okay bass, but I've never heard someone compliment its bass. This is a headphone that was one of two big misses, I would say, in the series that it was released in, which otherwise I think did pretty well.
HD 800, 820.
No, it's like, I mean, I actually might take an 820 over this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. No, it has
Fostex T60.
no, quite a bit more expensive than that.
Oh, okay. So it's one of them good headphones.
No, it is not.
That's
This headphone sucks so bad. This headphone sucks so bad that it prejudiced me against every closed back headphone that this brand has released.
Oh, you're talking in the series. In the series? So there's a series of this.
I would say it
Is it
fits into a
Stelia?
series. Not the Stelia, no.
Allegia.
Yes.
But that's not a series of the Allegia. You mean just the
The
series of the
Allegia.
closebacks?
Well, no, the Allegia is the pair of the Ilaire.
No, what?
Yeah. It's the Ilaire driver in a closed thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I would not say that's a series.
Well, is the Eon a series?
But they're... I mean, yes, but not... I don't think of the Eon... I think of the Eon closed as a series.
Oh,
And then the
I
Eon
would
opens
say that I think of anything that's clearly using the same styling parts and drivers to be a series.
Oh, okay.
Like the Eon
Yeah.
open and close were a series when they came out to me.
Actually, I would even say that the Eon open and close look more similar than the Allegia and the Alleire. The Allegia and the Alleire do not look that similar to me.
The Allegia looks more similar to the Clear, actually, which is unfortunate for the Clear.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
Yes, I have one. Okay, so this is
Go.
an older headphone. And make sure you guys get the spicy stuff.
Yeah, no, I am scrolled to
You got
it.
it. Okay.
So
Okay.
it doesn't get away from me.
So this is an older headphone. This is a headphone that I liked this headphone personally. I found it to be generally, reasonably well balanced with kind of like a rounder, fun-ish kind of bass profile, but not massively overbearing bass or anything like that. But a little bit more rotund than I might prefer. Not people did say that it was punchy and dynamic and hard hitting. I didn't find it to be quite that, but I could see kind of where folks were coming from with that. Its treble presentation was also maybe not quite as articulate as I might want, so it was a little bit maybe a little bit smooth over, but generally pleasant. Like it wasn't fatiguing or anything like that. I didn't find it to be fatiguing personally, and I found it to be very agreeable actually. For I actually used it for gaming a lot. It's a closed back, and it's what else?
Closed back.
I did not find one of the things that I did not like as much about it is that the presentation did not have the best instrument separation. So it did not have that kind of like plucked character that I liked from other, like some headphones. It had more of that kind of like blended together kind of presentation.
It's not
I wouldn't
Noir, is it?
No, I wouldn't say mushy or anything like that, but like overall it was more just like there was nothing stand out about the imaging, I would say. It was just
Maxwell?
a much more normal presentation. No. This is much older.
No.
Much older than Maxwell. Closed.
Yeah. But it had a general natural kind of tone to the whole thing that I quite enjoyed. It was an upgrade from one of my very first kind of real headphones. The comfort was also quite good. I found I wish the pads had been a bit bigger and a bit deeper, but apart from that, it was pretty good. And this is probably my favorite in its series. There are many headphones that take the same shape and style, like visually.
I mean,
And there are many
people in
brands that
chat are
use.
saying the Sony MDRs, but I don't think
Nope.
you like any of those.
I've never listened to the CD900 ST. I've heard the 7506.
I'm not sure you would like this ZD900
No.
ST.
Yeah. No, this is
Someone
this is
says
a close,
LCD2 closed.
this is a close back
It's the
that I
XC,
like.
right?
No, it's a close. No, it's comfortable as well. It's not
Oh,
super
fuck
heavy.
me.
I remember I used this headphone, despite the fact that I had headphones that I subjectively preferred more, but I used this one because it was lighter.
So it's light.
I wouldn't say light,
Nice.
but it's lighter than like planars. You know,
The frick?
at least for that era.
I'm
Yeah,
completely blanking.
I'm actually losing
Okay.
here. I don't know.
It's a headphone that's been mentioned already once in this stream.
Denon D2000.
There it is.
The Denon D2000 is better than most of the headphones that you like.
Yeah, it's a very good headphone.
I liked it a lot. What can I say?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's better than the headphones you're wearing right now.
No. I would
Yeah.
take this.
No, it is.
I mean, you might.
I haven't even heard the one you're wearing right now, and I know it is.
You won't like the treble on this. But I like this a lot better.
I mean, I don't love it on the Denon either, but the Denon is solid.
Yeah. So
Yep.
at the time, I had the HE500 and I had the Denon, and I preferred the HE500.
I mean, that's a strong 2 headphone setup, though.
That was my
What happened to that guy? Where's that guy?
Yeah, now you only have stuff that's worse than either of those headphones.
Yeah, I get to have fun with this.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to start looking at spicy takes?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. 8K is the worst frequency. Any headphone benefits from -3 decibels at 8K. I think you just are getting some peaking at 8K, bud.
Yeah, I think that's a personal issue, an anatomic issue.
Well, okay, but like for me, 6K is the worst frequency. It could be a
but again, it's a personal issue.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
Headphi's MDAX measurements and rating of almost everything getting over 5.9 is rubbish compared to real FR.
If you look at the results, the FR results of those headphones.
You know how MDAX is supposed to be like a perceptual model based on like how a listener would actually report whatever these qualities? Is it possible that like it not being a very discerning scale and being overly positive is actually reflective of how people would evaluate headphones?
Yes, it is.
I think that's conceivable. I think we want to have a better test of how consistently people rate headphones, though, because I feel like we have a fairly wide rating scale in the Harman work, which doesn't match up to how the MDAX scores of those headphones would likely turn out. Well, and I say likely because I can't actually get the MDAX scores without things that I can't get for the Harman headphones. Like,
so wait, Griffin, are you saying that because the input is noise, so the output is noise because the input is noise, but noise is the reality?
Well, he's saying that undifferentiating listeners is the reality, and so a scale that is not very differentiating accurately reflects that humans are pretty bad at this.
Yeah.
So you have a great system to indicate that none of it really matters.
Yeah. Although it might. We don't know that nothing really matters. Yeah. So Maxwell and other wireless headphones should be Roon ready. I actually don't know what Roon ready means.
It means they can be used as a Roon endpoint.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means.
It's actually it's code word for a sex thing.
I believe
why you gotta make it weird?
We're at spicy hours.
Being Roon ready, wouldn't that require it to have like a connection that wasn't just Bluetooth, or am I misunderstanding how Roon ready works?
I mean, Maxwell, if you use the dongle, has Wi-Fi.
Oh, well, yeah, I can see that argument. I don't agree with that argument, but I can see that argument.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think that's a spicy take.
The Quest-style USB-C Bluetooth Mini LDAC transmitter is a complete myth.
What
Tragic.
does that mean?
Oh, the LDAC transmitter doesn't exist for the Quest-style USB-C Bluetooth Mini. Wait,
Oh.
that's the thing that DMS talked about in that video, in the CanJam video, right?
I don't know.
I remember he talked about it, and I remember being like, "That's cool, I want one," but I.
Yeah. Okay.
Myth busted. DMS called out for lying on behalf of big companies.
Yeah. All right. Headphones at or over $1,000 are not worth buying, because at that price you can buy a decent 2.1 system and an APP2. That might be a good thing to do, but for a lot of people, IEMs are uncomfortable and don't fit and don't work. B, not everybody has the condition for a good speaker setup, which was my life.
Some of us don't want to inflict our music on the people around us.
Yeah, some of us are hyper aware of how bad our taste in music is, and would like to keep that private.
Can't relate, but I do like headphones, and I would probably take $1,000 headphone over those two things.
There you go. I also would, if I didn't have anything. Yeah.
If your demos are longer than one track, you have skill issue. Okay.
What does that mean?
I don't like that. I don't like that take.
If you listen to a headphone and it takes you
okay.
more than one track to say,
Nope.
is this good or bad? It's a skill issue.
Well, okay. So I thought about
if it's
this.
just a binary of good or bad, you can maybe do that on one track.
Yeah.
But
so
like for full assessment, it takes
exactly,
me at
yeah.
least, because not everything is going to stimulate every frequency range, you know.
One track can be a disqualifier. I don't know how much of a qualifier it can be.
All right. Mutashi Kine Narmas says, if it takes more than 10 seconds to demo a headphone IM, it's probably good. Extremely bad take. It sometimes takes a while. Like a lot of stuff, I'll sit down and listen to it. Actually, the Carbon 2 was like this. I'll sit down and listen to it and be like, something's wrong here. I need to take some time to figure out what's wrong here. You know?
Well, so here's prompts a topic that we kind of have talked about in the past, which is that so Jude has alleged that in one of his presentations that people are not FFTs, right? Like we're not when we listen to headphones, by and large, we're not great at being like, okay, yeah, no, that's that frequency that's going on here, that's elevated or whatever, right? But my contention there has always been that, like, with sufficient training, you can get there, right? For the most part, you can. With that said, it's still challenging on first listen to make that judgment right away that, hey, this is what's going on with the product. It's still a challenging thing to do, because you can have multiple things that are going on that are confounding one another, that are, like, so for example, something could have a peak in the lower treble, but you don't notice it as much because it's masked by upper treble. And so you hear that there's something wrong, but you don't know exactly what it is. So that's why I kind of think that you need, like, it's fine to be able to, like, listen more and before making a judgment or an assessment.
Yeah.
I do think that once you hear something sounding bad, it does not take long at all to figure out that it's shit. Like, it does not take long for a headphone to show that it is bad.
Yeah.
Okay. IEMs have a wider preference bounds than headphones.
We do not have evidence that supports that.
Yeah, if anything, I would say,
as far as I am aware of the research,
the preference bounds that we currently have, based on whatever we have from Harman, speaks to the inverse being true. Actually.
Well, but hold on. Like, how do you feel about this in relation to the more recent IEM?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you're referencing. Okay.
Like the MOA study is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like I have already done a bunch of percentile analysis on that, and
so that's with the
it's the one where they gave people adjustment points.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
The less high Q base shelf. the base.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
The base
Now,
IEM
There
research.
is still meaningful variation, however.
Yeah.
yes. Yes. It's not like IEMs are just going to converge on one target or anything like that. It is still very much so a field of variation of preference. But admittedly, it was a smaller variation than I thought when I actually
Well,
got all the data
I
together.
I I think it's also, yeah. I mean, I think there are just so many more issues with IEMs in general because you're breaking the natural auditory system by bypassing the pinna.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there's a whole bunch of like it
They're also
being
not
such a
equitable.
closely yes, but it being such a closely coupled device and therefore being more affected
yeah,
by the ear's impedance.
yeah,
Like if you look at the bounds from Soren's paper about like the mean like human ear impedance, like obviously there's that center line which we
yeah,
assume the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
5128 is targeting. But that single standard deviation line is about a plus or minus 2 decibel range from like 40 hertz up to like 3 kilohertz. And that's enough for,
I will say that part of that is like static differences in the actual volume, by which I mean the actual air volume of the canal, and
yeah,
those will only be affecting the overall transfer level, not the frequency response. So
they
there
wouldn't
is a
affect
nuance.
the well, they wouldn't affect the stuff under 1 kilohertz relative to everything else. Like there wouldn't be like a difference in transfer between those two regions.
So okay, so this gets us into a slightly complicated question. Assuming, but if the situation we're talking about is the plot that I'm thinking of, what you would
Yes,
want to look at
yes.
is not whether the slopes are diagonally offset, basically, but whether there were different features in them. Because if they're just offset in terms of
Okay.
assuming that we're talking about the non normalized to 500 hertz data, the 500 hertz normalized data should be much more consistent because because it's going to be accounting for the canal volume. So the effect here is that a smaller volume produces a louder overall output, and it would be true relative to the stuff that is beyond the, I guess, coupling band. It would be more sensitive, but that extends quite high. But it'd be more in the
Got it.
matter like that would be frequencies that are quite high. So I wouldn't necessarily say that is directly indicative of the degree of variation that we see on that plot.
Got it. Well, regardless of what that shows, the results in the preference differences in Sean's study
Yeah.
are what they are, and they're like
Yeah.
narrower than you would think looking at something like that, and taking it the way I did, which I guess was incorrect. So yeah, IEM preference bounds probably
Not
not
larger,
wider than
at least
headphones.
based on the data we have.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
Lawaris Karachi says ZMF Bokeh is the best closed back headphone in the world, even better than the E3 and Caldera closed. Is Joshua Veller shilling?
No, I
What?
just think he's wrong.
Yeah, I also just think
I
he's
don't think
wrong,
he's
which
shilling.
many such cases.
I
Yeah.
just disagree with which is fine. You know, he likes it. I also think like he's probably getting some sort of leakage effect on his head, given the base response versus his subjective report. Close back
Could be
headphones.
that way.
I heard the Boca. I thought it was pretty good sounding. I You didn't like it? Okay, I didn't like the Boca
No,
open. The
God,
closed
no.
I thought was alright.
That thing was rough. That thing was really bad.
I
Yeah.
did not have issues with it. Again, pads, different pads, all that stuff. But like I honestly, like I heard the Boca in Munich, and both Cameron and I listened to it. We're like, this is fine. Then we listened to the open, and the open was quite glary and sort of shouty. But then apparently that was just a prototype and not what the end result. So I don't know if that's indicative.
MGA says shit putting their power button on the back of their devices is a Chad move. Well, it does keep the AC further away from the from the audio signal, and it saves them the money on a relay, which is how you would normally deal with that. So I guess in that sense, yes.
Yeah, and also doing something that a bunch of people complain about and then keeping on doing it is a Chad move.
I will
Although I
agree with
think
that.
I
think
think
that
on some models
maybe
they have moved them to the front, but
I feel like user experience would be improved if they were less based.
I fear this is true of many companies.
DAC/amps with remote control to switch between speaker and headphone/IEM should be a default feature.
Could
That's not
not
a spicy
disagree
take.
more.
Wait,
I
what?
think
No,
the default-
Oh, you
I
just
don't
don't like
want to pay.
remotes?
Well, I don't want to. One, I don't want to have a remote kicking around. Two, I don't want to pay the extra for that in my DAC and amp.
I always
I
lose the
never
remotes
have-
anyway.
Like
That's
my
fair.
headphone setup is nowhere near where I have speakers, and I think that that's legitimately the majority position.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, you might be right.
All right. Are DAP costing over 2K overpriced? Yes.
Yes.
Most of these are not updated after 2 years, except
All
Sony.
DAPs are overpriced.
Yeah,
The
all
appropriate
DAPs are
price for a
overpriced.
DAP is $0.
I will say there are some cute DAPs coming out that are like $100, $150 that
I just can't stand the fact
if
they're
you
all
want
slow as shit,
something
and I
that
don't want to.
doesn't receive phone calls and isn't going to get interrupted by someone texting you,
Fair.
cool, fair.
But I have
Don't
those.
spend more than that.
I have those functions on a phone. I can turn off. I can make it so that I don't get interrupted.
Also true. Also true.
Yeah, just put your phone in do not disturb.
Yeah. MGA can keep all the chats.
That's just about the power thing again.
Oh, that's just a reaction. Yeah, I would say don't even bother with that.
Okay. Audio
Hero
research.
says.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, you first.
No, I was going to read the same
It's
one.
the same
You read
thing.
it.
You guys are reading the same thing.
Well, then he started it.
But you said the name, so you're going to read it.
Oh my god, just read
Well.
it. Someone.
Hero says audio research generally needs to have a discussion about designing studies with adequate statistical power before publishing misleading p-values. CF the ratings target article. No, audio research doesn't really. It's audio enthusiasts who need to have that discussion.
Well, there are some issues with some of the published stuff. Even these.
There's a lot of junk.
Harman does not need to have this discussion, but everyone who is published that isn't Harman probably should.
Well, no, there's plenty of good work in the AES. There's also a bunch of absolute crap in the AES.
That's what
I
I'm
have to
saying,
imagine that the AES's peer review is just a monkey.
Okay. What I mean is that the headphone research that has actually been talked about in the last 5 years. So basically just anything about the 5128 and anything that is even taking predictive power of listener preference into account. You're noticing I'm getting into a much smaller pool here because I'm really talking about 2 studies. Well, one published study and then
all the good stuff from Harman is good stuff, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah.
In general,
point, there's
it's
plenty
easy
of good
to make a bad paper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
But I do appreciate dunking on ratings, though. Please do more of that. Hopefully, they will not do something like that again because that was a really bad post.
Did you guys ever connect with the guy? I can't remember his name.
I talked to him, Pierre.
Oh, okay. And did anything come from that? Did they revise? I forget what the outcome was there.
I mean, they revised the values that they got so that they were not statistically impossible, but they basically seem to be set on the whole.
Still the same concept.
Yeah, like just doing a large number of people, but like one trial each. So we have essentially just a random distribution of preferences. And then saying this means that there's a spread of preferences is the right methodology, whereas the right methodology is to first quantify your noise and then make sure that your result is greater than the noise.
Reviewers biased and preference can, I think you mean bias. Reviewers bias and preference can drive the buyer into wrong direction. How do reviewers set aside their preference when they review? I think this is true.
Why would they do that?
Well, first of all, I think that it's true that they have they'll have a preference for a thing, and then that they will be biased. That's just inevitable. And it does push people into directions that are going to lead them to buy things that probably are less to their taste, right? I think The only thing that I really would have advice on there for is the whole, like, reviewers should be listening to the gear, not the music. Otherwise, they are bound to be they're going to have fun with a thing that is ultimately unfun. Because music is fun.
Arya says
Yeah.
K-pop should be recommended more by YouTube internationally.
No.
No, sorry.
I got a lot of recommended K-pop as it is.
But that's on
it's
brand for you.
It's a pretty powerful
don't really
force
listen
in
to
US recommendations.
Yeah, but are you not a weeb and a furry?
No? Question mark?
I'm just
The memes just keep cycling.
Yeah.
You need a lot of
okay.
You need a lot of time with IMs to get valid impressions because the tips often affect the resonance peaks.
I don't know
Oh,
why
so you need to go
time factors
through
into that, though.
You need to go through the different tips, is what he's saying, right?
Oh, well, I guess you need
yeah. You do need to find the tips that you most prefer.
Insert genre here.
Yeah, I was gonna insert a genre.
Okay, then do it.
No, now I'm not.
Okay, folk was better pre 2018, 2020, etc.
I mean, folk has
Good take.
scarcely changed in that period. So the man with the unintelligible names.
Oh, what?
The man with the unintelligible names.
Croissants are better than English muffins. I think that's a good take.
That is the coldest take. No, that's a cold take.
It is a cold take.
If you ask anyone, hey, I have a croissant and an English muffin, which do you want?
Croissant.
Who the fuck picks the
But
English
it has to
muffin?
be a good croissant, because there are some croissants that are just stodgy and horrible.
Bad.
And then you're just disappointed.
I will take a bad croissant over an English muffin every time.
Oh, I don't know about that. If
there's nothing on the English muffin, then the croissant.
Yeah, and the English muffin needs to be toasted with like butter or something, right? You got to do something with it.
I'll still take the croissant over it.
All right.
Nobody's
glued pads aren't that bad. I like this take, actually.
Okay, so I think people overstate how much of a problem this is.
Yes.
I think that this is something where this happens more in headphones where it's more of a problem. Like, I don't really have a problem with glued-on pads on a $50 headphone, because replacing a $50 headphones pads is kind of stupid. Like $20 on top of your $50 is but for like a $2,000 headphone, I want to be able to replace my parts easily and in a way that does not leave shmoo on everything.
Yeah.
And glue means shmoo.
And it's a pain in the ass to clean it off. I remember having to do that with Lyric.
I do not like shmoo.
Yeah. Dilemma for audiophiles who love EQ: can't use Max, like cheap but powerful mini M4.
You can. You just got to get a different piece of software.
Or buy the newly released JDS Atom.
There you go.
It's cheaper to just get the software. Sound Source is like $30-$40.
Yeah. It is cheaper to get the software. And come to think of it, we don't sell the Element, so why am I shilling it?
Analog sounding has zero meaning describing sound. I wonder if people...
No, it means sounds good, and digital means sounds bad.
Does it? Or does it mean rolled off?
No, it means sounds good.
I think it means...
Analog sounds good. That's
okay.
Yep.
People do tend to say analog in a positive sense. Dylan asked a question. Oh, sorry.
I was just asking, did they associate it with like warmer tunings as well?
I think that's a generically safe assumption. If someone says something sounds analog, I assume that it sounds warm. If someone thinks that something sounds digital, I assume it sounds bright.
Yeah.
Dylan asks a question. This should be a very quick one. How bad is it to play my HE1000 Stealth really loudly with bass heavy tracks? Will the diaphragm tear? Is that even a thing? That is a thing. You will cause yourself hearing damage before you tear the diaphragm. Be very careful with your ears. Like, that is much more in danger than the diaphragm. But it is technically possible to destroy the diaphragm. But again, your ears are much more in danger than the diaphragm.
Let's do two more.
Well, I feel like we gotta pick them.
Yeah. Lighter headphones aren't always more comfortable than heavier ones if they also have tighter clamp, such as HD600 and DCA Ian.
Good take.
I like this take a lot. Yeah. Now, interestingly, this one has less clamp for me than some of the other ones that they had. So the ethers have more clamp for me, and I find them unwearable. But
I
this
do
one
wonder.
is way more comfortable.
I do wonder how consistent
The knit and all
the
is.
tension on the
Yeah.
Nitinol is, because like that seems like I've heard a lot of people say these things are incredibly clampy, and I have a fucking giant head and I haven't had issues.
Oh,
So
I
I'm
have one
kind of
here.
wondering.
Yeah, I have the one of the other eons, and it would crush your head.
You know, I this is
But
one of
I
those
actually
things
don't know.
where
I think it could be because the pads are different and the pads are stiffer. Like on the previous generation, for example, of eons, and that made them more clampy because they weren't taking up as much of the brunt of the clamp.
yeah,
Could be the headband, but it could
I
also be the pad deformation.
like I would really, this is something that if I ever sell a headphone again, I'm going to actually try to practice what I preach. But it would be really sick if manufacturers showed the tolerances, not just for, like, Sennheiser does it with the HD800s FR, and that's good. I'd also like them to use a caliper pressure met test fixture to show the variation in that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, ideally, if you can, even variation in, like, what's your tolerance range for ear pad thickness and stuff, because these things are not perfectly consistent, and for some headphones I legitimately think that it's a problem in some units and not others. I remember
Yeah.
this was a problem with the old the hi-fi mans with the sort of squared off headband top, like the original
Mhm.
560 and stuff. People complained about that, and mine was totally fine, but some people's weren't.
I see a take that we should talk about. Is DMS wrong in defending vendor for charging over $1,000 for an IEM with a cheap Chi-Fi planar driver? Well, for starters, that's not a cheap driver.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, relative to what the that's probably meaningfully more expensive than the HD800 driver.
well, I liked something that
Yeah.
DMS said in his video about that, which was that they're probably not even paying that much for that driver. That's just what people who are buying it on AliExpress are paying for it.
To be
Um,
fair, they might be buying it on
they might be,
AliExpress,
but yeah, exactly. But
which would be silly.
it would be more expensive, like to do that. Like that's
I
quite
mean,
pricey for
I
one
mean,
driver.
the real thing that DMS is wrong about there is defending someone making a planar IEM.
No, actually, so here's the thing though. One thing I think he didn't quite address is that, like, at the end result, like, is this a product that's actually going to be any good or any different, really meaningfully better, let's say. And because you have one that costs like $1,400 and one that costs, I don't know how much the competing ones are, $200, right? But say it's something like that.
I
And
think it's down as low as 150 maybe.
yeah, whatever, right? But if they're using the same drivers, does the whatever the tuning choices that 64 Audio made there, is that enough? Is that sufficient to make it sound better than the $200 one? And
Well, no, hold on. There's a misassumption here. We shouldn't start out with, is for the same driver, is this, worth the money over? The question is, are any of these worth buying to begin with, which is what listener is riffing on.
no, I know, but okay, to the people who are already past that
Well, no, but I mean, they
struggle.
shouldn't get like, getting past that is where they go wrong. Like, if it is a good headphone at $1,000,
No, but hold on,
then
no,
it's
the point, that's not the point. So if you say, okay, I have there's this $200, Chi-Fi IEM with this planar driver, and the sound is mediocre, right? Like, say that's the statement, and so you may as well not buy it because the sound is mediocre. If that's the statement that you're making, Griffin,
yep.
does what 64 Audio did with that driver elevate it to now something that is worth consideration? And I think he should have. I think he should have said no, because people can. So you can run with basically everything that he said in that video and hold it to be true, but the missing piece, and ultimately one of the elements was what you're paying for is the tuning. The missing element at the end of that road is whether or not it's good, and the answer is still
Yeah.
probably not.
Well, he didn't have a unit. He was
He didn't
just
have a
kind
unit.
of
I know, and he was just,
basing it on
but
the
that to me is
discussion that
like
was
what people
ongoing
were
on Reddit.
right. But I think that's where at least, so the people who are not driver pilled, at least some of them would have had a legitimate criticism of that product to say, well, Yeah, maybe that's true, but it still wasn't sufficiently elevated to justify the $1,400 price tag, and I would probably
Yeah, and look, that's exactly what Caleb's review of that IEM
yes,
says.
that is yes,
So
that's exactly it. Yeah, and I
I
I
think
I
that it's
agree.
basically a case of people being mad for the wrong reason. The reason to be
Yeah,
mad is not the ratio of BOM to, to product cost is wrong for this product. It's this product is not competitive in its price point.
yeah,
If something
and
in a product outcompetes it, whether that's because it's cheaper to produce or more expensive to produce, and one just has a high margin, it doesn't matter. Like, I can put as much gold as I want on your food. It doesn't change the fact that it may or may not taste good.
and but this is the problem: is that no matter how much we yell and scream into the void about this, the majority of people still think that sound quality is directly proportional to fanciness of driver. And there's a built-in assumption that more fancy driver entails more fancy sound quality, and
Yep.
thus that's what we're paying for when we're buying, many $1,000 products. And to the credit of those people, the ones that we said sounded the most technical happen to be the expensive ones. I think the cheapest on that might have been like a Stax or something like that, or maybe the Headphone 2 GT. But still,
I think it's
they end up being
important
more
to
expensive.
reply to that these are also the headphones that none of us are choosing to own.
I would not choose to
I
purchase the
chose to own
Vara
the
because it's
HD800.
unreasonably expensive.
Yeah.
Like I would never
And it's
buy that
not, but they're also
headphones.
not headphones, but they're also not headphones that if we do choose to own, we're not, well, except for Blaine, we're not choosing to use them as
Without
they
EQ.
are.
Yeah, we
We're
are
choosing
EQing.
to make
Exactly.
them better.
Exactly. Yeah. Which you can also do with significantly less expensive headphones. So,
Yes.
So,
I
and for
could,
me,
Latesh,
like a lot of that is also down to like the fact of like, okay, is this an ergonomic choice? Because a lot of those ones that are, let's say, okay, I don't prefer the AB1266, but let's say I did. It's like horribly unergonomic. I'd never choose that headphone. So,
I mean, it's horrible in many respects.
yes, but I'm saying what like if I were like into that kind of coloration, right? If that was bringing me the jollies, um, and I could see it, like for certain types of music, I could see somebody being like, "Wow, that does weird things," in a way that I like. It also did weird things in a way that I didn't like. That's the problem. Very wonky.
On this note, Watashi Kininarmas says most of the renders hollering all over the 64 audio planar are virtue signaling rather than actually disliking the IAM. I mean, I think that in general here it's sort of a thing where people have this kind of half-cocked idea of what being pro-consumer is, which is essentially the view that being pro-consumer is anti-company profit, which in a well-functioning market would be true, right? Like if everything was optimized, the
Yes,
only place that we can
Pareto,
get things.
the
Yeah.
burrito. Yeah,
But we are nowhere near the Pareto
yeah,
frontier, man. Like
yeah,
right now, a lot of companies are spending an ungodly amount to make products that absolutely suck. And some companies are spending very little to make products that a lot of people have legitimately good experiences with consistently.
yeah.
Like, I get where this comes from, but a lot of people immediately go to, like, this thing has low BOM, therefore it's inherently not good value for the price. And then I'm just like, all right, well, what's better value for the price at that price point? Like the BOM of the HD 600 probably is not as high as many of its competitors at the same price point. It's still better than a lot of them.
Yeah.
So there's this weird, it's sort of like a primitive bean counting, It's like saying if this person is making less money, I must be winning more. But no, you guys can both lose.
had many such
Which is
cases. This
yeah, I
is
was gonna
the
say,
most common case.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's. But I do think it's as you're saying, like there's definitely a misunderstanding of how any of that works generally across the board. And so if you see an example like this, people are very quick to latch onto that because it is a signal for, like, they're doing something wrong, like they're evil, uh, exorbitant. It's like, look at any IEMs over what, like, it's all exorbitantly priced. And
So This is something that probably merits its own stream headline topic, but I do
Yeah.
think this is part of sort of a naive concept of how this industry works. Because, as I said, in an industry that was optimized, it would be true that a higher profit margin means that basically we're getting bilked, right? Like, if this was an ideally competitive space, if we had really good products from multiple brands, and one of those brands had a higher profit margin, then they would almost tautologically be giving you less value for your dollar. The problem is that this is a space where you can spend an immense amount and consistently get bad results. And so this isn't really a defense, honestly, of 64 audio, because really, I mean, what is it defensible? Question
I
mark.
think it
Like,
would have
it's
been a
not a
lot
good
more
IEM, is it?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I haven't heard it, but I think okay, based on what Caleb said, right? I think Caleb's take is a fairly sober one on this, which is that it's not different enough to warrant, you know what I mean, like the exorbitant price tag from the ones that are using the same driver and are similarly tuned, right? So to me, this would have been a more interesting subject or debate if they had made it perform, more exceptionally, right? Like,
Yeah, if they'd made it
that,
more gooder.
yeah, because
Or
then
if they had
there's
made it worse in an interesting way.
sure, but I think the more gooder one is actually like okay, we could say maybe they did improve it somewhat, right? Like, I don't know if that's true, but I haven't looked into it, but maybe they did, right? If they didn't improve, if it's still not exceptional, right? That's kind of the problem. But what if they had made it exceptional and they used that same $55 driver and it came out that they were using the same $55 driver? Now
Yeah, it
there's
wouldn't matter for shit, would it?
I think the community would have reacted the same way.
Oh yeah, I mean the thing is, but that's
And
because again,
that's
that's
the funny
because
thing.
they don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, people think that when you're talking about an expensive headphone, the driver is everything that matters, and the driver's expense is directly proportional to its sound quality. Because, in a sense, that's how it should be, right? Like, why would you buy a $50 driver if a $20 driver sounds as good as a manufacturer? Why would you buy a $100 driver if a $50 driver sounds as good? Why would you invest $1 million into designing your own drivers if you could buy them for $10 and they'd be just as good? And the problem is that this industry, as I've repeatedly said, but I really feel like people don't get, just is not that optimal. It is not a heavily optimized space. There are a lot of what you would frankly call mistakes.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of a parallel of, like, if someone made a luxury car with a Toyota Corolla engine in it.
Well, it wasn't, I mean, like, in
Or
terms
like,
of luxury cars with shit engines, isn't that just most
yeah,
British
but that's
cars?
the thing, is that yeah. Well, but they're not even
I
shit
mean, like,
engines. They're good engines. They're just not fast, So it's like, they're not
Jags.
fancy. Yeah. Yeah.
They're neither fast nor
No.
reliable. Nor, I mean, what?
Yeah, but it's a Jag.
And then there's Lotuses. Don't forget the Lotuses. That's
Yeah.
a good example of.
The low tie. Yeah. Anyway, on that
We do
terrible
not use
disappointment,
the Latin plural on Lotus.
but I want to. I want to. Yeah.
I think we
There's
should
also-
wrap it up, guys.
We should. Yeah. We
Salt
should.
and Peanut says, "Is it the same with Head and their AMT drivers? Do you think AMT drivers are a mistake for headphones?" I've told Dimitri this. Dimitri is doing his level best to make AMT drivers work for headphones, and he's getting better at it as a function of time. They could have got as good of a result much more cheaply doing something different, but their head and what they do is AMT drivers.
Yeah, and I get
Like,
why they would have done it, right? Like, it's like that's their world, so they're trying.
but it doesn't
something
mean
novel.
that you, the consumer, benefit by buying them.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy them, nothing wrong with that either. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like this industry. I said this is a very unoptimized industry.
All right. Yeah. Let's wrap it up. Blaine, do you want to take us out?
Yep. As always, this has been brought to you by Headphones.com, your number one place to learn about and buy audio equipment. Not just headphones, but speakers, DACs, cables, amplifiers, and probably some other stuff too. Check out our site at Headphones.com. Also, for the Canadians, we have some stock on Headphones.ca. In addition to our storefront, we did
true.
at least.
I
Do we
don't
not
know if
anymore?
that's true. I have
We
no
used
idea.
to.
Oh, maybe not.
Oh fuck, do we not? Since the office is
I have no idea.
my outroll. God damn it. Anyway, well, maybe the Canadians are screwed. I don't know. In addition to that, you should visit our communities, forum.headphones.com, which is our main forum, as well as discord.gg/headphones, which is our server. You can talk to all of us in there, at least sometimes. And
Oh.
on the forum, you can also contribute to the thread where our topics are suggested. So you can potentially save us from having too much epistemic discussion.
There are things on headphones.ca. Look at that. And it's updated.
I told you
Look at
headphones.ca
that.
wasn't dead.
All right.
This
excellent.
man is trying to sabotage our place of employment. So please
Wow,
save
okay.
headphones.com
I'm the one doing that.
from
All right.
please save headphones.com from Andrew's attempts to prevent you from buying. Show him up and buy something on
No,
headphones.ca today.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Buy something on headphones.ca today. Contribute to our threads. In general, interact with us and give us your money. Because without your money, we will die.
All right. Thanks,
What a
guys.
wonderful way to end the stream.
Bye.